Welcome to another episode of Our Interesting Times. It is my pleasure to have Ryan Dawson back on the show. Of course, Ryan is the proprietor of the Anti-Neocon Report, ANC Report. So Ryan, how you doing?
Oh, I'm good, my friend. It's good to be back. It's been a while.
Yeah, but a little over a year, I think.
Yeah, anytime there's some viciously terrible news, I get reanimated on here.
It's funny because you sent me the email, and I was listening to one of your interviews, and I was thinking I should email Ryan, see if he's available. And I got your email saying, "Hey, let's do something on this." I said, "Oh, okay."
Oh, that's weird.
I was just thinking about it because I saw you making the rounds, and okay, because I know you meticulously research these things, and you make connections, name the names, do, the important history. Of course, we're going to talk about Jeffrey Epstein and his death, and what his operation was all about, and how it factors in the fact, today's current power structure.
I mean, was anybody shocked?
Yeah,
that he's dead?
I mean, it was so bad. Saturday morning, we were just reading, going through perusing, and I see the headline, and I'm like, oh, geez. And then I go to a family cookout with my normie relatives, and even they're saying, oh, gee.
Yeah, I guess that's the difference, is even normies, I hate using words like that, but even normies were, oh, they got Clinton or whatever. That's
Yes, it's the Clintons got him, right?
Well, they have gotten a lot of people, so that's I don't scoff at that. That's actually possible.
Oh, yeah. So the death of Jeffrey Epstein, we're going to get a quick review of that and his operation, the story there. And you've literally mapped this out.
Yeah, I don't know if you remember back in the day when I had the chalkboard, and I used to do the chalkboard videos, like the weirdo with the strings and stuff on them, with the push board.
I haven't seen those older ones. I guess they've all been scrubbed, right?
Well, I guess well, you saw the one on Epstein. There's like toward the middle end of that, it flips to a chalkboard of the Schmidt family and with the bushes and stuff. But yeah, they've all been scrubbed. I've been YouTubed, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, yeah, you know.
Yeah, what
like
I do now with even
you're on BitChute too, making 1 minute video. I'm going to BitChute.
That's what I do. I say I go to YouTube and go to these links to listen to the entire interview now. So because they were getting rid of my shows too, and I was suspended for a week.
Yeah, it's pretty much any show I've been on gets YouTubed.
So
I'm toxic.
You have an algorithm just looks for your name?
I don't. Yeah, it could. I mean, it might. But I think it's just, I'm saying there when I'm saying on my show too, and you're just not allowed to talk about Zog. So they targeted specifically any video critical of Israel, which is disgusting because they're like espousing conspiracies about Russia and stuff, and yet they're anti-conspiracy, and they are protecting a racial apartheid state, yet they're supposed to be fighting hate speech, right? And the people who actually are fighting hate speech are accused of hate speech and then removed from YouTube and financially hurt by their censorship. And for what? For being anti-war, for dismantling dumb conspiracies, like saying it's Russia, like Joe Scarborough did about Epstein. Joe Scarborough said how convenient.
Yes. He has his own story,
Trump.
Doesn't he?
I guess it's the Russians. Yeah, he's a Matt Lauer type. Yeah.
There was a body there, wasn't there?
Well, let's talk about Epstein's body just briefly, because I noticed something this is kind of like the Sandy hoaxer missile hit the Pentagon people that I'll probably be dealing with for the next 10 years or so. But they were like, look at his nose, look at his ear, this is a switcheroo, and da-da-da-da. And they still have the corpse. You can test his DNA. His brother verified it. The reason his corpse looked like that actually is, and it is good that we have a couple photos, apparently he had been dead for a while without any attempt to resuscitate him. They made sure he had no pulse long enough that there was no way he was coming back. Then they said, for 47 minutes, they tried everything under the sun. And of course, he was already gone.
Oh, yeah. So I
You
know
know,
morbidity.
he had busted capillaries in his face and stuff. So
Yeah.
you shove something in someone's mouth or pull their upper lip down, it does make their nose curve. But people do look a little bit different
Because
dead than
lividity, right?
alive.
Your blood, with no blood pressure, your
Mm-hmm.
features will change. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm
Hanged
correct
or
about that.
choked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially if you're.
But
Yeah.
I wrote real quickly like is it Lemaine, or I don't know how you say Lemaine, the warden of MCC resigned, and then the cop and rent-a-cop that were supposed to check on Epstein slept on the job, and yet Epstein's own lawyers, that's who had him taken off of suicide watch. And there's no camera, there's no cellmate. That's a lot of coincidences and a lot of incompetence you have to all have line up at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Or it's just a calculated setup for a murder. And either way, and I lean towards murder more than suicide. You could argue, oh, this guy's never been punished in his life. He couldn't handle jail. He was going to take his own life. But you also have to factor in that he was meeting with his lawyers 12 hours a day. Like every day, he could go to an air-conditioned room, get out of his cell, and talk to people and be grounded and prepare a defense. And this is someone that wanted to live forever. He wanted to freeze his brain and penis and spread his DNA through all these different women on his rape ranch in New Mexico. And he had a way to weasel out. He had enough money and connections. But with his homes being raided and everything, the case on him is now dismissed with his death. So they're going to have to go after his cohorts. And Maxwell, daughter of Israeli spy, is at large. They found where she'd been living, but in Boston, but she skipped town again. They'll have to find her if she's not dead also. You know,
Is she a target of a specific criminal investigation at this point, or?
Yeah, she was subpoenaed, and she was served papers before from last time.
Mm-hmm.
And then I believe in 2015, Virginia Roberts sued her. And then another victim, Zora, I hate these names, whatever. She sued her, the maid, and two other recruiters.
Was that pilot that was
a secretary? And Maxwell was a helicopter pilot, so that she could bring girls back and forth from St. Thomas to Rape Island. And her family is. This is the thing, when they made the sweetheart deal in 2008, the whole focus was on Acosta, right? The one Hispanic guy. And like, he basically caved and admitted he caved because he was told, this is above your pay grade. He's an intelligence asset, butt out. And then you have to say, okay, intelligence asset for whom? It's because it's not America. If you look at his financing, the people covering it up, all his lawyers, his cohorts, everything on the map I made, essentially, when you look at everyone around him and where he got his money from and who's he's tied to politically, and then who the targets of his blackmail are, this is an Israeli operation. He's targeting big tech and science and things that Israel wants to steal. And he also targeted prominent people, like presidents, who have the ability to wage war on behalf of Israel.
That's interesting, because wasn't Maxwell involved in the Promise software? The father, Robert Maxwell, when Promise software was stolen?
He stole that. He did a lot of things. I'll talk about him some more in a bit. But he stole Promise, which made Pegasus, which that was used to track and find Jamal Khashoggi, who was murdered by the Saudis. And the Saudis had their own rape cruises and things too. And Anand Khashoggi, the uncle of Jamal, was notorious for research circles anyway. We all knew.
He was that gun runner, right, back in the 80s and 90s? And
yes, he did. He ran weapons, but just to what people are interested in, I guess, because there's so many people that illegally run guns. Mm-hmm. He had a yacht that Trump actually bought the yacht from him, renamed it the Princess. I mean, you'd have to wash that in bleach so many times. They used to have hookers on there and go around international waters and have these huge parties where they would like poop on people's faces and
He was on
just
like cover of Time magazine, and he was like the wealthiest man or the most interesting man in the world, things like that.
right.
Back in the day, yeah.
And he would build these harems like with like velvet couches and all this stuff where it was just, invite prominent businessmen and have a bunch of hooker parties like that. Not kids that I've seen yet, but a lot of, highly coerced, impoverished Eastern Europeans that would do just about anything for a buck. They get them over there on one pretext, and then they just kind of keep escalating it till it's just like, oh, come on, just stick it in your ass, lady, or whatever. Mm-hmm. But, they say, oh, you'll be a nanny or a maid or whatever. And then like it turns out, well, what do you want to do now? You want to be abandoned in the desert, or are you going to get on the boat, So it's disgusting. The Saudis, the Israelis, the Americans too, they're always caught in human trafficking, organ trafficking, torture, you name it. Rape torture in Abu Ghraib. Remember that one? Part of our Congress heard those tapes of the young Iraqi children that were sodomized and raped in a tortured prison. And those tapes were played for their mothers as part of sleep deprivation to torture them to get information on where their husbands could be. We raped and tortured children as a state policy, which they can say, oh, no, it was a few bad apples. And those screams of the crying and screaming of kids getting raped and sodomized, which is just humiliating. Like, just being nude in the Islamic world is shameful. And to get sodomized, I can't even get my head around how bad that would be. And as a child, and by soldiers, foreign soldiers, just raping kids. That story was known to our generation or whatever. We all remember Abu Ghraib, and great journalist Seymour Hersh broke that story, as he did the My Lai massacre in Vietnam, and he even wrote about his theory of a state sponsorship in 9/11, which is proven correct now. But I retold that story on a podcast randomly. Someone asked me something, and I just gave that example. And there were a lot of millennials that had never heard of it. It's been really scrubbed. You'd have to specifically go to Hersh's article or something to find it on Google, because they're not showing that. But that wasn't just Blackwater or something. That was our military, our contractors raping kids in a prison, and an illegal invasion and a war based on lies for Israeli partisans. And then you had DynCorp caught drugging and raping their own employees. And we've seen again and again child rape and child prostitution and closet homosexual extramarital affairs in Congress, in the BIA, in the FBI, in the CIA. There was a video that's been YouTubed off my channel when Pizzagate was a thing.
Yeah, you went through the litany of
I was
scandals,
like, Pizzagate is Jonestown rhetoric to tar baby this topic so people will dismiss it. But there is so much. Yeah, I went through a long list with newspaper articles and stuff on the screen. So and so busted with child pornography here. It's every agency. Mm-hmm. Like, it's so deep inside our government. Epstein's not even the tip of the iceberg. But Epstein was targeting big tech, which, by the way, Maxwell's new boyfriend was a CEO of a huge tech company. He was targeting tech, and he was donating to certain scientific adventures so that he could try and surround himself with these people. And, this was so professional. They had several top-tier modeling agencies where they were getting these honey traps. And, normally it probably wasn't underage kids. That was Epstein's thing. Mm-hmm. And apparently Prince Andrew and some others. But they were just using, the best-looking young models and women they could around these nerds to try and hook him up in a honey trap. And then they were filming everything like Hoover style, eavesdropping on everyone and getting dirt. So it's like, well, we want your information and we want your obedience. And, everyone knows Clinton was accused of rape from several different women, and then he got Lewinsky'd and was banging his Jewish intern. And during his impeachment proceedings, he started bombing Iraq because that's what they wanted. And so they decided not to confirm his impeachment. And the moment he was cleared from that, he stopped bombing Iraq.
Mm-hmm. Your opinion, Lewinsky was an agent?
She was a honey trap.
Yeah.
Come on. She saved a dress with semen on it. Who the hell does that? Oh, was that a trophy? Like, she had that blue dress with his
presidential essence.
Yeah, presidential essence. Yeah. Like she couldn't just go get some more or whatever. She was saving that because they needed to nail him dead to rights. And
what are those agents called?
Plus Kenneth Starr and all. Kenneth Starr is a lawyer for Epstein too, as was Dershowitz and all. Like the same goobers, they run around.
She's like
a really tight circle.
It's like a synonym, I think, is the term.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. Dershowitz, I kept my underwear on. I couldn't have raped that girl. I kept my underwear on. It was just a massage. Just a massage by a kid on a 70 to 80-year-old man or whatever.
He says it without blushing too. That's
on rape. He says it right after saying I've gotten known murderers acquitted. Mm-hmm. Like he's just bragging about it. Oh, he's disgusting. That guy's always been disgusting. He's a plagiarist too. On top of that, that guy's not smart. He's teaching at Harvard, but you look at his books and stuff. Norman Finkelstein has done a total woodshed of Alan Dershowitz. And like how just like dumb and ordinary this guy is. But these people use intimidation to get their way. And if you stand up to these bullies, their intellect doesn't go very deep. They just have a lot of money and stuff because they have enough chutzpah to engage in Ponzi schemes and fraud, which aren't that clever either. It's just normal level stuff, like Chelsea Clinton's father-in-law is the father of the Nigerian email scam, the pay it forward stuff.
Well, you have these.
Isn't that funny? They both married Jewish guys, and both their father-in-laws went to jail. Kushner, too. It was also doing sexual blackmail, by the way.
Yeah, but you don't hear about it in the press. This guy Kushner is supposed to be this bright guy, moderating force in the White House. Well, actually, he belongs to what's this? Chabad Labowitz or Chabad? You don't hear about that. We did a show on it about the Kushners and the.
Charles Kushner's crimes were in like New Yorker and some written press, but not like the Times or any of the televised networks. Yeah. And you would think the Democrats would bring this up, like, you want to smear Trump, right? Well, Charles Kushner's work and his son are both working for him, and he hired white-collar criminals out of jail. Mm-hmm. There's all these ties to modern mafia, not just like Roy Cohen was his lawyer. Like Tony Salerno and Bob Labouti and all this stuff. I know you and I have been over it, but not everybody's heard everything. And I made a film about it even. Trump signed his ball and chain. Mm-hmm. All that info is right there. You could hit the president with that stuff, but they won't and they can't because you'd also be hitting the Kushners, and that's a no-no because they're the privileged class.
I guess they're the part. They're the ones to say they're the Holocaust builders.
They're one of the Holocaust builder. Yeah. That's a group of 6 families. Yeah.
And this goes back to the founding of the ADL, where it was formed to protect a Jewish criminal, and
Leo Frank.
I was reading there was a police commissioner in the early 20th century, around 1908, who wrote a report about crime in New York City. I think his name is Theodore Bingham, I think was his name, something like that. But he talked about the crime and ethnicity, and what he found out was interesting was that the Jewish crime rate was 3 times the average, and even higher than that of the Italians. And for that, he was forced to resign and apologize. This was 1908.
Yeah, I mean, it's you're not allowed to talk about any kind of criminal statistics because of the PC world we live in or whatever, but a lot of that Jewish crime statistic and the Italian crime statistic is probably because of Italian and Jewish organized crime.
Yes.
Which is not separate from the Italian state. And in 1908, there was no Israeli state, but there was definitely a world Jewry.
Yeah.
Of organized crime from abroad too, and they have this attitude. That
very organization that you speak of, which was not formal, was mobilized to create the Israeli state. So
in World War I.
Yeah,
they think we're talking about Ashkenazi Zionists. They think in racial terms, and they have this weird attitude where they will cover up or help cover up crime, a high-profile crime of any kind of Jewish criminal, because it looks bad on us or whatever. If so-and-so, like a Leo Frank or somebody, does something like that, it looks bad on them. But that actually makes them look worse, because like you're protecting a murdering child rapist just because they're Jewish. And that will in turn hurt all Jews, because who didn't cover it up, whatever, because now they're going to get associated with what this clique is doing. But I think most of the time, like in the case of Leo Frank, he was the president of the B'nai B'rith chapter in Atlanta, so it's tied to their organizations, which are there nowadays for the Israeli state, back then for the future Israeli state. I mean, the Rothschilds wanted that land. That's where their temple is, and in their fantasy religion, whatever, God is a real estate agent. It is a disgusting culture. I mean, you got bearded monsters biting off the skins of babies' penises, and that's just considered normal because it's religion. But under any other context, that's insane. Even now, bite it off and then suck the blood with your mouth, and
Which spreads hepatitis.
Yeah, they spread herpes in New York recently.
Yeah.
It's disgusting, man. It's so disgusting. But they can get away with it because of the Holocaust. But I think Italians couldn't do that. No one could do that without some sort of giant victim card to wave around to stave off criticism. We live in a very PC universe. And so you just can't show things because they're afraid that the explanation will be racism. Like, you can't talk about inner city crime statistics with disproportionate amount of blacks shooting each other or something, because they think that means, you're trying to say it's part of their blackness and that's why they behave this way and that's racist. Not that, well, maybe it's liberal policies that have kicked dad out of the house and this and this and this, and that's why there's crime.
Weaponized culture, yeah.
Right. And so the way that they hide the horrible results of welfare and the policies that are implemented on inner cities and the war on drugs and all these other things that actually cause this is by waving around the accusations of racism. And you can say, well, actually, it's quite the opposite. By not talking about the war on drugs and how welfare has decimated these societies, you're hurting minorities, which is racist. It's weird. It's like, it's projection. They accuse you of what they're guilty of themselves.
Yeah, it's like when recently Dawson over
aid to Africa or something. Like, you're causing starvation. You're not preventing it by removing agency. And they'll go, oh no, we just need to send more food and money. No, you don't. Because you're white. Who's going to get into agribusiness themselves if you're giving away food for free? Like, that's going to just cause a dependent state where they have to have the aid to survive, because they can't develop markets to make their own food because they can't compete with free stuff. And it's kind of they give a man a fish versus teach a man to fish type of scenario,
Yeah.
you know?
There's no development there. Yeah.
But you're not allowed to even have that discussion because they just start saying racist, or xenophobic, or whatever. Or it's you're against Islam if it's an Islamic area, or you're against this. I'm like, no, I'm against your stupid policy, and you're the one that's always obsessed with biological categories and stuff. You know, like that's Democrats, man. They're just not all of them, but there's a big slew of leftists that are just obsessed with categorizing output by sex, race, and whatever, Frankfurt School style.
Mm-hmm.
And it just doesn't do any good. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, is it working in this city or not? Because you could look at. I just did this when I was arguing with white nationalists. You could look at a city in Maryland, like Mitchellville or something, which is like 78% black, and their average income is over $100,000. Very affluent area. And you could go down a little bit to D.C., which is the complete opposite. But you have to look at the policies and who the mayors are and so on, and see it's liberalism that is destroying these cities most of the time. But it's very hard for JQ Public to put their hand out and say, no, I don't want free stuff. Because on an individual basis, you're like, yeah, why work? You know, but long term, welfare destroys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you can't promote or encourage that much disorder in people's personal lives and expect them to govern themselves, or expect the public institutions to be orderly, to function properly when there's so much.
Well, people who are dependent on the state for a handout cannot challenge the state.
Yeah,
that's like Saddam Hussein. He had people on rations. You want your rations? Get in line.
Mm-hmm.
You want to starve? Take me on. You know. But again, part of the reason he needed to do that was because of the oil for food program and the sanctions and so on. So, you know, we're out there building Frankensteins, and Epstein too. Like, the policies we have in place with Barry Kirshner allowed him to knowingly. Everyone knew he was raping girls, and he got 18-month sentence. They served about 12 to 13 months of 6 days a week. He got on work release and just went to his house and partied and did what he was doing anyway, 12 hours a day. And they didn't even lock his cell, and he stayed in like not the real jail even. It was like the comfy section of it, and did as he pleased.
Now Barry Kirshner was he the state attorney down there who told Acosta to back off and sign this
Yeah, I think the feds told him to back off, but Barry's the guy that that's what the conviction was limited to, was on Florida level, state level, admitting to soliciting prostitution from a minor. Right, that's all. And it was so much worse than that. And you could see in the settlement cases too that, well, Maxwell and Epstein had to pay inordinate sums of money, like in the millions, to a bunch of teenage girls for something. Yeah, non-disclosure was like, what the heck else are you doing with that?
There as many as 40, I think, Jane Does.
Oh yes, and those are probably just the American girls. The poor Eastern Europeans and Latin Americans and stuff, they don't have a voice.
Yeah,
they're just used, abused, and disposed of, and that's that for them. And it's interesting that when you brought up Leo Frank earlier, for those that don't know, he murdered this teenager. I think she was 13, Mary Fagan, in his pencil factory, and had raped her, and had raped a bunch of kids prior to that. The whole town was so angry about that they did a jail break-in to get him and bring him out and hang him, because kind of like Epstein. In reverse, they broke into the jail and killed him because the ADL was formed to protect this guy and had given bribes to the governor to get him his sentence commuted. He was going to get away with it, and he tried to blame it on two different black guys, and no one was buying it. Like, he had a reputation for, first of all, he was using child labor, which is already illegal. No way to weasel your way out of that one. But he had a reputation for flirting with and inappropriately touching his young employees at his pencil factory. And then this one, who he had raped, he banged her head on something so badly she'd bled and was dragged across the floor because whoever did it couldn't just pick her up. So her body was dragged down, and there's blood and hair right across from his office. And this is before the days of DNA and all. We didn't have that ability back then, but everyone knew he did it. Her shirt was at his house and other things. And he even admitted in the trial, like, first he said he wasn't at the crime scene. Then he admitted, okay, I was. Maybe unconsciously I was, or something like that, which was all the rage at that time. Unconsciousness was the just sort of the fad of psychology at the time, kind of like chemical imbalance in the 90s, or whatever they're on today. There's always some new stupidity fad in psych, but he did it. And it's interesting that we have that example because it's very fitting with the Epstein case, actually, because Barry Kirscher got an award from the ADL after defending this global pedophile.
Yeah, so something's never changed, I guess.
Mm-hmm. And that's the whole reason they were formed, was to defend Frank. And then here they are giving an award to Epstein's lawyer, his Jewish lawyer, one of like 6 other Jewish lawyers. And I'm only pointing out their ethnicity because you have to understand that these Jews, not the Jews, but these guys are tied to a group of Zionist billionaires that formed an organization called the Mega Group for the sole purpose of pushing Israeli interests in America and Canada. And it's composed of a bunch of Zionist billionaires like Leslie Wexner and Edgar and Charles Bronfman and Michael Steinhardt. Even Steven Spielberg had a role in it. These are not just a group of guys with any kind of common interest other than being pro-Israel.
And Wexner is was Epstein's benefactor. He's the one that gave him the mansion in New York, and apparently gave him $1 billion to invest or to play with. So it turns out that perhaps Epstein was just set up as an operative, as opposed to being the genius that
He's not. None of them are geniuses. They all of them acquired their wealth through crooked means. The Bronfman family, through Seagram's liquor and alcohol during Prohibition, was tied to all the
Mo Dalitz, who was awarded the Torches of Liberty Award, I think, in the 80s for his efforts.
And Mo Dalitz and Lansky and Hank Greenspun are all tied together through the Desert Inn in Vegas and so on. And I have gone over that with you, I think, before. If not, I don't know if we went into Hank Greenspun or not, but I've definitely, it's all an ANC report, and that's the whole long story in and of itself.
He was the editor of the newspaper out there, right?
Yeah, and he also pumped in millions of dollars that he acquired through illegal gun running to Israel. I remember he stole the airplane machine guns from Hawaii and then got them to Mexico and got them to Israel for the war in 1948.
Yeah, he paid a fine, though, right?
Yeah.
He made millions, but he paid like a $50,000 fine or something.
Right. They know, and the files have been released, and like IRMAP has these up on Hank Greenspun if people want to go look at that. The Institute for Research in Middle Eastern Policy, and IRMEP.
Oh, they're proud about it. The legal,
they brag about it. And like,
yeah.
It's interesting that the exact amounts he was giving match certain things that I don't want to open the can of worms. It's the Kennedy assassination, but it is something to look at with Hank Greenspun, and it goes all the way to the Rubensteins and so on. But the Bronfmans made their fortune illegally selling liquor, and they're tied to John McCain, the Seagram's liquor heiress, and his father, who covered up the attack on the USS Liberty. So this family has been covering up major Israeli crimes for generations. And now the modern generation, the youngest Bronfmans, like Sarah and Claire, are in the Nexium scandal. And Claire's already pleaded guilty for her role in it. And these people were not only raping women and brainwashing them and coercing them into sex, they were branding them like how you brand a cow, burning symbols on their legs and things like that.
Doesn't goyim mean cattle?
There you go. Brand them like a cow. That's what they think of you.
Yeah, but you have this very powerful Canadian family, and their children are caught up in this scandal, and yet we don't get the type of coverage. You hear about Nexium, but you don't get the name Brofman, and the Brofmans, they're up there. These are tied to the Rothschilds. Then you're getting into the world order here. The bankers that control things, and yet somehow when we talk
Claire's
about
grandfather's in there. I think I misspoke and said father the other day because Edgar, and there's a senior and a junior, but whatever. He's the president of the World Jewish Congress, and then Charles Bronfman's the chairman of the United Jewish Communities, and that includes the Council of Jewish Federations, which is the United Jewish Appeal and the United Israel Appeal, which I'm pretty sure do the same thing. But and these guys move around refugees, and you have to think the wars they start cause refugees, and refugees are right crop for exploitable young women. Yeah. Exactly. Like when you create refugees, what a lot of them turn to? Prostitution.
There's drugs, organ harvesting, and sex. Yeah, sex trafficking.
Exactly. All that war brings about all those black markets because men turn to selling narcotics, women sell their bodies. And then, of course, there are a lot of corpses, so you can go around and get corneas or whatever. It's a market of death, and it's very real. Like, these people rape and murder and trade body parts like commodities and don't bat an eye. It doesn't bother them at all. And selling alcohol illegally is like the most mild of their crimes. That was the backbone of their business empire. And these guys, the Bronfmans, there's so much more we can say about them in organized crime, but suffice to say, they, with Leslie Wexner and Steinhardt and Spielberg and Abrams, some others, they created the mega group. And I want to give a shout out to Justin Raimondo from antiwar.com, and he passed away a couple months ago, but he really nailed the story back when one of the many times AIPAC was caught spying, but one of the big ones was when Steve Rosen and Keith Wiseman of AIPAC were caught spying on the Defense Department through Larry Franklin.
Oh, yeah, I remember that story, yeah.
Right, and Franklin gets time and they don't, right?
Yes.
But in that case, if you read through it, and Richard Pearl, who's also a spy for Israel, is the chairman of the Defense Policy Board at the time, he resigned from that post when the AIPAC offices were physically raided by the FBI. Because he's still an Israeli spy. Like, why was he back in the DoD after he'd already been busted as a spy for a foreign state? But anyway, he was, and they kept making references to Mega. Like, let's get this to Mega. And so people were looking for a mole nicknamed Mega or something. But Mega wasn't a guy, it was the organization. And it's the organization that these billionaires had set up. Because they're the ones with the bribery and the blackmail on everybody. And I can't remember if I said this in another interview or this one, but I was explaining, you bribe poor people. Mm-hmm. You blackmail wealthy people, because the wealthier someone is, the larger your bribe needs to be. Guys, I'm not going to bribe a millionaire with $10,000 or something, because it's not worth the risk. But blackmail scares them because they're worried about losing money, not getting a little extra. poor people, blackmail doesn't work as well because they got nothing to lose and they'll get violent or whatever. But a bribe, you wave 10 grand around someone's face that doesn't have any money, they'll do just about anything. But to get blackmail, what's the most dangerous type is sexual blackmail, because that's a career ender. And it's weird too, because as we were stating earlier about race, sex is another one of these things. If you supported war and torture and all that you can build a career on that actually. But you have sex with so and so, well, you're done. Your career is over. You're out of office because you cheated on your wife, or you had sex with a man, or if you're a man, or whatever. That'll get you, and that's the kind of blackmail that they create through honey traps. They dangle a young Putinani in front of a prominent business person, and or sometimes it's men, or dangled for other men or for women or whatever. They get people, they film the encounter, and they blackmail them Kushner style so they can get what they want. And Mega is not going to do that themselves. Leslie Wexner and Charles Bronfman and stuff are not going to go around like Kushner tried to do and get hookers themselves. They get a procurer, and that was Epstein and Maxwell. And her father was an Israeli spy. So it just cannot be ignored that a massively wealthy and powerful Zionist group that created a pro-Zionist, and it's not even a lobby, it's a pro-Zionist group that is being referenced by AIPAC officials who are worried when they got caught spying on the United States and selling secrets about what the U.S. knows about Iran and stuff to Israel, which would involve the Plame affair and all this other junk too. But I just don't have the energy to re-explain that because I've done it so many times. But people can look it up about, or just go watch the map video. I went over the Libby and Bush and Smith and all that. But one interesting part about that that affair, that did bleed into the Niger forgeries, because that was just part of a set of lies that were pretext for the war in Iraq, right? And Mel Sembler, who runs these like child counseling groups for, poor teens or whatever, which are always full of abuse, he set up the Lewis Libby Defense Fund. And Libby was a lawyer for Mossad agent Mark Rich, who was pardoned by the Clintons. And Mark Rich and Pincus Green were involved in human trafficking. Libby also wrote a fantasy novel about underage Japanese girls being raped by a bear in a cage, bestiality and pedophilia. And he was pardoned by Donald Trump the same day that Donald Trump hired John Bolton. And he'd already had his sentence commuted by George Bush. And, of course, George Bush and Karl Rove were seeing Jeff Gannon, and George Bush's spiritual advisor was Ted Haggard, who was sleeping with a male prostitute and doing crank. And, Clinton's spiritual advisor was Jesse Jackson, who was standing up there with his pregnant mistress next to his wife, and Clinton, who was cheating on Hillary with Monica, and Hillary was cheating on Bill with several women. This is the kind of debauchery that gets promoted on purpose, because once they got somebody, it's a lot like the plot of the second Punisher on Netflix. It's like, oh no, we're not going to destroy your career with this, we're going to promote your career because of this, because you're now our senator or our governor or what have you,
And like the Senator in Godfather Part 2.
Yeah, and the Clintons were running drugs and helping cover up their side of Iran-Contra with Mena, Arkansas, and training pilots and bringing drugs in, moving guns out. And some of the early Clinton body counts were two boys that sort of stumbled upon that operation who allegedly fell asleep on the train tracks. Come on. They had been murdered and then placed on the railroad. And I guess they thought, well, the train will just annihilate them so much they won't be able to know anything from the corpses. But that's not what happened. But a 16 and 17-year-old kid. And it went on and on. The Clintons, all the way up to Vince Foster, possibly Seth Rich.
Mm-hmm.
Very possibly. And maybe even Epstein. Although I have another culprit in mind, but they certainly
Yeah, the fun
benefit.
thing about Vince Foster is it didn't seem to make sense at the time, but among the papers, I believe, was found a reference to child sex trafficking, and no one knew how to fit that into the context. I don't know what that
Yeah.
means. I
You
don't.
know who is really good on Vince Foster is Mike Rivero
Mhm.
from whatreallyhappened.com. He kind of pioneered that actually, and he used to work in special effects and stuff too. But he got to see the early photos or whatever that got scrubbed and then replaced on the mass media, and just that's kind of what got him going, like why he started his website and everything. And there,
Ever had
he
that? How
just
that witness was harassed too? Was like followed by people. The guy who went to relieve himself in Fort Marcy Park, and he was just this contractor, living a normal life. And he claims that after he gave his statement, him and his girlfriend were harassed and they, sort of intimidated during that entire investigation. It's a weird story. It's real
I
creepy.
forget who said it, but maybe the name will come back to me. But the quote's what matters. He said, "I'm not saying the Clintons murder people, but a lot of people around the Clintons end up dying young." Yeah.
Well, it's
Stay out of small planes.
when you have a political machine, uh, people will take care of that for you. Yeah.
It's like sitting next to a Kennedy on an airplane. And it's dark. But anyway, yeah, so Wexner did basically gave him a multi-million-dollar
Yeah.
house, made him power of attorney, continued to pump money in, and this is how Epstein was funding his operations.
And he ran a
Prior to
foundation
that, he
for him
did
too,
work
right?
at Bear Stearns. That was kind of a front because he didn't really have any clients or anything. He got in a huge Ponzi scheme with Stephen Hoffenberger, who's in prison for that. Epstein got away with it. He was involved in setting up a sieve for a structured investment vehicle for Bear Stearns Dublin, which was just created out of Bear Stearns from the U.S. to get around U.S. regulations. And it was called Liquid Funding Ltd. And Epstein, which really means Wexner, put in 40% of the money for that operation. The other 60 is all very similar, with a very similar tribe. And that helped offload toxic assets for Bear Stearns to make their books look good so they could continue to leverage and do their shenanigans. And they were trying to sell commercial paper to offset the toxic assets for liquid funding
Mm-hmm.
and got top tier 1 rating because they bribed the rating agencies. And just like the AAA ratings on CDOs for the mortgage-backed securities throughout, names, the Money Citigroup, all of them. And that commercial paper ended up in Dreyfus Money Markets, Frank Russell Investment, as well as JP Morgan Chase Money Markets. And that's who ended up buying out Bear Stearns with a massive loan, essentially from the New York Federal Reserve. They set up Maiden Lane LLC, but that was, just a little middleman company to pump in $28.8 billion.
But this is
Yeah.
money that's created out of thin air, out of ledgers. They just create it. The Fed.
Yes, this was the New York Fed, not the
Yeah,
Fed,
the Fed.
but
But they're able to create
yeah.
money ex nihilo and fund this operation. That's
Mhm.
that's. I mean, that's
And
that's
they're
privilege.
just like, okay, you guys go around and because, like, if you can print money or just create money, why don't you just create money? Well, that it causes inflation, and they do that all
Yeah.
the time. But if you can loan money to people to buy property and then say, "Up, you didn't pay it back, now I get your property," that has intrinsic value. Assets have intrinsic value,
Yeah.
and
Now you
not
get the
everyone's willing
property.
to
Yeah.
sell their property, but they will. And you get all these people buying all these homes that then have to be liquidated later, and it was a huge scam. And they pocket the money, they take the TARP money, spend it on bonuses. Like, everyone should remember the 2008 housing bubble fiasco.
Mm-hmm.
No one gets punished, but Epstein was part of creating the Civ. Citigroup's the one that invented SIVs, by the way, the structured investment vehicles. And for those that don't know, it's just a way to like offset debt obligations from your balance sheet. So let's say I'm way in debt because I loaned out a bunch of money to people to buy whatever, houses in this case, and they didn't pay it back. So I don't have the money, and it's going to take a while to seize all those properties and stuff. So what I do is I just sell the deal, the IOU. So let's think of like there's an IOU.
Mm-hmm.
They owe me money. Well, I just sell that whole thing to a third party. So now they owe the third party money instead. And so I don't have that debt obligation.
And this third party would be Maiden Lane, which is given free money from the New York Fed.
Well, it's Liquid Funding Ltd, and then that gets from Maiden Lane. So yeah.
Okay, so basically,
just another layer.
The capital isn't someone's savings; it's just money created by this institution, which has that power, and they hand it over to a certain privileged group.
Right, and we all eat it in inflation.
Yeah,
and so they just make some money and buy up all the bad assets and debt, and it's too big to fail, right? And maybe they'll even loan it. So, okay, these big financial institutions will have to pay back that loan eventually. But what they really do is they give them like 30 little tiny loans, and they pay back like the first one, and the other 29 just sit at large. And they go, yeah, I paid the loan. Like, yeah, the 1/30th of it. It's like I get a big loan, I get loan number 2 to pay loan number 1, I get loan number 3 to pay loan number 2. On and on for infinity.
Yeah, well,
pay.
I mean, when you have the sort of,
I mean, you can pay once if you've ripped all these people off and you get all these property and you get all these bonuses and bailouts and there's no interest on your loans and all that, and you're making interest off of the money you borrowed / stole, then you can start paying it back. But I mean, they hurt so many families across the United States and businesses too, with this gambit, and it should piss everyone off what happened. Because okay, the $30 billion that Maiden Lane put in is nothing. The Fed put in $853 billion to Bear Stearns, which just goes to J.P. Morgan Chase because they ended up acquiring Bear Stearns for $30 billion and then get bailed out $853 billion. That's disgusting.
Yeah. Not to mention the trillions of I think it was estimated $20 trillion in.
I think more. I think I had it at 22 trillion in my book based on the GOA audit.
Yeah,
but the shiftiness and stuff. It was more like 28 trillion. And who knows? Yeah, I mean, it's like after a trillion, I just don't even keep counting. I'm like, what?
This also leads
That's
to
a number.
This also leads to enormous concentration in the U.S. economy, the global economy. If you're wondering why everything's been so corporatized, is because the smaller, mid-sized companies who have to deal with somewhat honest accounting to compete and pay their bills don't get the free capital. And so these corporations get it, and they're able to buy up things. Yeah.
Plus, their competitors can selectively loan to themselves to buy up competition and get monopolies.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something Bank of America did with Countrywide. And, well, I don't want to get too deep into the financial stuff because I wrote a book about it called The Separation of Business and State, available on Amazon.com.
Yeah.
But I just want to use more time on Epstein himself. He's in bed with this, but isn't it interesting that this mega group, one of the billionaires' businesses is L Brands, Abercrombie and Finch, Victoria's Secret, so that they have access to top-tier modeling agencies. And he's the billionaire loaning the money to Epstein, right? Not the Bronfmans, not Steinhardt, it's Wexner, because Wexner has Victoria's Secret. And Epstein would pose as a recruiter for Victoria's Secret, so he's molesting them too.
Mm-hmm.
Epstein's big problem is it's like the number one rule in drug dealing is never dip into your own stash, right? Well, he was dipping into his stash 7 times a day, apparently. And there are now Victoria's Secret models or people who tried to become Victoria's Secret models that are coming forward saying Jeff Epstein would do an interview and it would be like at a hotel or at his house or whatever, not even in his studio. It would be like, take off your clothes and I'll do this. It's disgusting, dude. I'm glad he's dead, but I wish he'd be alive long enough just for him to flip on everyone else. But we all knew he was going to make it.
It's interesting because you mentioned Abercrombie and Fitch and the L brand clothing is how these industries themselves also have a cultural impact because they sexualize the culture younger and younger. If you notice, a lot of the clothes for kids have become increasingly sexualized, and it's interesting that these businesses that determine what clothes are offered to kids are owned by these billionaire Jewish pedophiles.
If you go into one of those stores, there's these like huge black and white blown up photos of like 12-year-olds topless but holding their hand over their boobs on a beach with some other kid or something like that. They are sexualizing children and they plaster it all over their stores.
You're selling clothes, but your models aren't wearing clothes.
Right. You're trying to sell clothes and your models are only wearing like just jean shorts or something.
Yeah, all these boys are these hairless guys, and they're early, maybe mid-teens, maybe a little older, but they look very young, and
they're super young, and then photoshopped to Wazano, and it's like to make them look older in certain features. It's a weird thing that they're using, but that's mild compared to what we find out, is under the underbelly.
Yeah,
a lot of these models are being pimped out to be honey traps.
But this is how you draw in the sort of sexualized, have a sort of alchemical effect on the culture. Is you introduce subtle imagery, suggestions, and pretty soon, people just accept the fact that that tweens and 11 and 10-year-old girls and even boys are becoming sexualized, and we see that so much in music. We saw that, with the Disney Corporation, Michael Eisner, promoting this sort of image in sort of their pop stars, the Pop-Tart stars. They churn out of their factories.
Yeah. Just look up Disney child pornography, and you'll see a lot of their employees, and always of the tribe, are busted in such matters. And again, I will tell you, this isn't because yids rape kids or something like a Patrick Little slogan. It's because these people in prominent positions are targeted on purpose and are used to target other people. Like you get one and you make them recruit. It's like a pyramid.
It's a brownstone operation, and the brownstone operation is with seed capital. You can take over an institution or a country if determined through this process, and pretty soon, just through promotion and networking,
give us 20 years, we'll take over your media and run your country. Something said by urban moving system meetings, right?
Yes. But when you look at a group like Mega Group, and the fact that it is these.
Why does that even get to exist? Like, we're gonna have a massive lobby for a foreign country.
Look at AIPAC.
Prominent billionaires that are definitely illegally financing political campaigns, and that expose on the lobby. There were two of them, one on the UK, one on the US, by Al Jazeera. Wasn't even allowed to be shown. Couldn't even put it on YouTube. Google removed it from YouTube.
Yeah, I downloaded
Al
it before they removed
Jazeera can't show it on Al Jazeera. The leaked version can't even go on social media. I mean, they immediately put the lid on that because social media absolutely is an arm of Zionist censorship. They are getting rid of everybody. Google especially.
Yeah.
And Google's not free from Epstein. He bragged about these nerds that would, engage in these parties where he'd fill them up with models, and he tried to get Trump with this. He went to Mar-a-Lago party back in the day, and actually recruited young girls from Trump's resort. That's how Maxwell was hanging out around the girls' locker room and then trying to catch teenagers and say, oh, you can become a traveling masseuse and make money and see places and then shower them with gifts.
Virginia Roberts was a towel girl.
She
there.
was one. Yep, one at least. And good on her for suing and not just taking the money and shutting up. Like, good for her.
Well,
she was living with them.
And she was able to escape. She went to, I think, to Thailand or something.
Yes.
And refused to come back.
She was clever because they wanted her to have a baby.
I heard.
They're like, you're going to have this baby, but it's really going to be our baby. You're going to sign this and that, and we'll give you like $20,000
a month or something. Yeah. And it was like, it'll be our baby. We do what we want with it. Jeez, who talks that way?
For $20,000 a month, a lot of people were like, fine.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm not selling a person, you know. And she met a man in Thailand, was able to escape to Australia, and they had brainwashed her and lived with her so long. They're like, you know what, have a nice life. Like, what's this little peon gonna do, right? She'd already been replaced. But she was sort of the main, like, he had to live in sex slaves. It's like, suck my dick while I'm watching TV.
Yeah.
Sex 7 times a day, and then you're gonna go get me some other girls. And so he would just bring in crops of them. Most of them are coming from MC2 modeling of Jean-Luc Brunel's group.
Does MC squared? Like,
yeah, like that's
like
what
Einstein.
That's supposed to be MC squared and her. Yeah, not yeah. Yeah. Well, Einstein did sleep with his cousin, but before they didn't know any better back then. But yeah, whatever, man.
It's so self-referential. It's just they're so inward-looking. It's like, man. But
they had a hold on. They had a They have an office in Tel Aviv, by the way. New York, Tel Aviv, Miami. What do those 3 places have in common? But that's where they stuck their
not High Lie.
Nah, it's all full of Eskimos. They
New York, Tel Aviv, and Miami.
They were housing models in New York, though, and Epstein didn't just have his rape mansion. He had a lot of adjacent properties, including Maxwell's house, and a home allegedly just filled with young women all the time, housing these MC2 models.
Well, I mean, let me ask you a question. What if there was a group of, say, I don't know, Germans who were kidnapping not kidnapping, but getting Jewish girls and exploiting them, and international network of of trafficking Jewish girls to satisfy the appetites of German businessmen, and what would be the outcry?
I was saying the same thing. Like, imagine they're all North Koreans, and they make a group with the sole purpose of lobbying on behalf of North Korea, and then we start going to war with all of North Korea's enemies, and everything's exactly the same as what we're really doing in the Middle East on behalf of this other group. Like, you'd have to point it out, and it wouldn't be a slight on Koreanness or Asianness or whatever. Like, you got to understand that certain political ideologies are tied to ethnicity because they're racist.
Yeah.
They think Israel is a Jewish state. They're engaged in ethnic colonization and saying God gave us this land and all. Their diaspora feels a loyalty and a sense of like victimhood pride because of the Holocaust and other events to this state. And that's all it is. Like, you have a bunch of prominent Jewish billionaires that feel like it is their duty and loyalty to promote the interest of Israel, also because Israel helps them acquire their wealth in the first place through organized crime. And if they ever do get busted, you just run away because Israel won't extradite you. And this is a sick thing that the Bronfmans especially have a relationship with a lot of prominent prime ministers and Jewish leaders in Israel, and as does Wexner. Wexner set up the Wexner Foundation, the chairman of which was Jeff Epstein.
Yeah.
And donated millions of dollars to Ehud Barak, for example.
Yeah,
and
Israel is kind of
was a murdering psychopath in the Israeli military that becomes the Israeli prime minister, currently running against Netanyahu. He's seen at the New York rape mansion as well as Pedophile Island. He's on the logs. He's in the black book. I have all the numbers, by the way. I have the unredacted version if you want to crank call some people with me later. But Ehud Barak was moving around international rape rings. Individuals like Ari Sher, who with George Steinhardt had a huge rape ring in Brazil. They're two homosexual Jews, but they were pimping out really little girls, like 8-9-year-olds, in child pornography. And then they were having sex parties at the Israeli consulate. This is how they got caught, is in the pictures of the smut, the swimming pool, and of the Israeli consulate in Brazil is in the background. So government employee on government property selling kids. What happens to him? He gets whisked back to Israel. They tried to replace Amir Lati of Australia, of their delegate in Australia for the Israeli consulate, with Ari. And the Australians said no way, but the reason Lati had to leave, and it was really hush-hush, he just suddenly is gone, is because he was involved in spying. He visited 2 Israelis who were in jail in New Zealand who were trying to illegally acquire New Zealand passports. And then later we have the infamous hotel assassination, and they're all using passports from New Zealand or Ireland or these kind of neutral countries that are accepted everywhere to travel around. But it was a bunch of Israeli assassins, and they were working for the Mossad. And, and now that guy is he's in China. Like, there's still, it's like the Catholic Church. They get caught and they just move them around to another area and rinse and repeat, right? And I think the Catholic Church has the same motive. Like, instead of just admitting this guy's raping kids or is a pedophile and prosecuting and throwing him in jail, they try and cover it up because, like, oh, it's a Catholic priest, so it looks bad on all of us, so we'll just move him over here and cover it up. Well, that makes it worse. Because now it's like, well, the whole Catholic organization is involved in covering up the crimes of fellow Catholics who are caught in touching little boys or whatever. And a lot of these Zionists are doing the same thing, but I don't think that's the sole motive. I think they have to move them around because their assets involved in a huge blackmail ring. Mm-hmm. In this case in Brazil, a lot of prominent Israeli businessmen were visiting them on rape tourism. And so this is a way to ensure financing for your political campaigns because you got all these guys by the short hairs.
Yeah, think like, Denny Hastert. Think Denny Hastert going to Asia, right?
Yeah. Well, he had been raping boys at his wrestling schools where he got started, right?
High school,
coach or whatever, raping high school kids. Let's wrestle. Oh, I just touched the butthole. Like, what a gross person. But the thing is, when did he get in trouble? After he was no longer useful. Mm-hmm. Right? He'd already been Speaker of the House, done all the damage he could. After that, he gets thrown under the bus. Not before.
Well, it's interesting. You mentioned Ehud Barak, and because his political opponent is Bibi Netanyahu, and you're thinking that the exposure of Epstein could be related to internal Israeli politics?
Considering that Netanyahu is tweeting pictures of Ehud Barak outside of the rape mansion himself, yeah, I do. Like, everyone said, why now? Because Epstein's been doing this. Everyone knows he's been doing this. Got caught already and got away with it. Trump's the one that set that off because of Epstein trying to recruit kids from his properties. And because Epstein was rubbing his nose in it, he was buying property adjacent to Mar-a-Lago that Wexner used to own, and he sold to this guy named Grossman, and that guy got in trouble and was having to quickly liquidate his assets, so it was a golden opportunity to get this 6-acre property right next to Trump's property, which Trump wanted but didn't have the money for, and Epstein just thought it was great because Trump is what Epstein wants to be. The billionaire, very public real estate mogul that hangs around with supermodels, 6'4", handsome, charming, banging Karen McDougal, that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm.
Epstein can't pull that off. So when Trump went broke because a lot of people, we over leveraged a lot of properties in Atlantic City and da 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 da, as certain people involved in that, he thought, oh, I'm going to buy the property right next to you, and I'm going to take you on a tour of it and show you what I'm going to do with it. Trump went with Epstein and had to sit there and swallow it. Apparently, like, Maxwell used to deliver Trump food and be like, oh, I got to go bring some food to Trump. He's crying under the covers because he's broke. They were making fun of him.
Yeah.
They were enjoying every bit of it. Like, this very wealthy goy is now going under. But Trump made The Apprentice and got some money and pulled off a $41 million bid to, I think, Epstein's 39 or something. He got the property next to Mar-a-Lago, expanded, which, now, since they're adjacent, he can turn the whole thing into a resort, and did, or made his resort larger. And Epstein was furious. I'm going to expose you for how fragile you are financially, da-da-da. Trump just had borrowed some more money from his dad, and then I think it was the Hyatt or one of his hotel chains started doing well, so he sold his stake in that, got more money, and was on the up and up again. But Trump's like, okay, well, he just went to the police and told them Epstein was hitting on like little kids at his parties, banned him from Mar-a-Lago, banned him from all Trump properties, in fact. They hated each other. So, yeah, he's seen with them and stuff. So that was a prominent figure in Palm Beach. Everybody knew who he was. And Epstein knew a lot of women because he's associated with these model companies. And Trump was definitely into supermodels, which is not illegal. But Epstein was into a little bit younger.
Mm-hmm.
That's what Trump was alluding to. He didn't have proof. And you can't just, like, say someone's a pedophile who's a multimillionaire or a billionaire, especially when you have a lot of money, you're going to get sued. So he said exactly what he could say, what he suspected. So I hate it when people make me defend Trump, but he did go after Epstein, and I find myself doing the same thing for some other people I can't stand. Like, no, that's not what happened. Like, quit making me defend these people. Epstein had the cops notified. It was hard because they were greasing palms in Palm Beach. $100,000 donated to the police department, and of course Barry Krishner was uninterested in ever prosecuting Epstein. Gave him immunity. It's just the weirdest immunity deal ever. Any future cohorts are also immune. Like,
yeah,
what kind of language is that? And, Dershowitz and all of them celebrate. They're like, yeah, well, if you know the judge, if you know the attorney, if you know the district attorney, if you know the prosecutors, it doesn't matter what your defense is. You've already won.
Is that the Roy Cohn method of defense?
Pretty much exactly the same, right?
Yeah.
And they were using homosexual blackmail, and he was a closet homosexual himself, tied to General Dynamics and all that. And they helped select the people that selected who investigated the backgrounds of Lee Harvey Oswald and Jack Ruby, those two in particular. And, they never knew each other, nothing to see here, and he's just a loser with nothing interesting. And Ruby did it for Mrs. Kennedy. Oh, my gosh.
The outrage.
It's so bad. It's so terrible. Yeah. And but they had multiple properties in different states. New York has a new child protection law that's not the real name. It's like pretty close though. It's like child abuse protection law or something like that. And it's being used, and they're going after Maxwell. I hope they find her. They found where she was living. And they may have spotted her by now by the time I'm doing this interview, but
think she'll go for a swim like her father?
You know what's weird is she's like, I've been in love with the ocean since I was a little girl. I'm like, the one your father drowned in? Because she started this Terramar pro-oceans cult almost, and gave a TED Talk about it even. And it was partnered suddenly with the Clinton's Global Initiative.
Well, that's because Epstein was pivotal in setting up the Clinton Foundation, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Which
And
Charles Ortel has talked about. How they never even met the minimum requirements for like filing for taxes, and there's yet to be a criminal investigation of the Clinton Foundation.
and Frank Gustra has been cleaning money. Well, sometimes they didn't even clean the money. They were taking direct loans
Mm-hmm.
from Saudi businessmen and stuff, including guess whom? The Khashoggis and
Khashoggi's, yeah.
the gosh, it's so disgusting. And there was cases of bestiality in Haiti through the Clinton Foundation, raped in more way than one. They were having young girls having sex with dogs and stuff, like getting raped by dogs.
Well, the one lady was caught with kidnapping a couple dozen kids. They're supposedly orphans whose parents were still alive.
Oh yeah, and well, they would tell people that the baby died,
Mm-hmm.
and then just take their baby. That was part of the Family Planning Act. Yeah, no, wait, that was the sterilization program. What was the other one? Ric Flair was one of these children, like the famous wrestler. They told his parents he died, and they told people who adopted him. They told the parents the baby died. They told the people who adopted him that the mother had died in birth, and just lied to both sides and were selling kids to wealthy families. This is kind of stuff. And Ric Flair is not that old. Is he 70 something? So this is not like ancient times or something.
Mm-hmm.
And that's in Ric Flair's book.
Well, they're exploiting desperate people, and it's to a lesser degree it happens here in the United States, and that's what the casting couch is in Hollywood, and that's what Las Vegas is with the showgirls.
Oh, well, that's you remember Harvey Weinstein,
Yeah.
right? Oh, here's something disgusting. Another one of Epstein's lawyers is now arguing that after he died, right, and the case is dismissed, Epstein was just a victim of wealthy man caught up in the Me Too climate. But the Me Too climate, this whole hashtag stuff, is because of Harvey Weinstein.
Yeah.
Because it's been like Corey Feldman. Oh, by the way, who was in Steven Spielberg films, who was been accused more than once of kitty touching, and or at least providing the environment for it, like with the soda pot club and all that, and getting these kids in there. But
you've heard about the girl who died in Poltergeist?
No, I
haven't. The
haven't.
little actress who died. She had some sort of bowel obstruction that killed her, infection. She developed sepsis. I've heard reports that it was inserted objects.
Gross.
And it was covered up.
Both the Coreys were raped.
Yes.
But anyway, Harvey's thing was like putting on the bathrobe and some wine and asking for a massage. Do you want this part in the movie? How bad you want it? Kind of stuff. Gross troll.
Heather O'Rourke was her name, and she was discovered in a shopping mall by Steven Spielberg.
Oh, really?
I believe that's the story there. Yeah. So I want her in the movie. Now, take that for what it's worth. I'm not making any accusations, but considering, whenever a young person dies like that.
Yeah, Steven Spielberg's never been caught in any kind of pedophilia or anything. He's just had a lot of accusations and a lot of kids in his movies, because maybe he likes kid movies, but these kids have been raped and there have been convictions for that. And there were parties for, like, actor kids.
Yeah, the Open Secret, the movie Open Secret. The woman who did that documentary, when she did a documentary on the Catholic Church, got also awards for it. Then she focused her eye on Hollywood, and that was just scrubbed. It was forgotten.
What was the church thing? Spotlight?
Spotlight. Yeah, it wins Academy Award. The difference is,
said,
the church is covering these things up, but the difference is the church can't control the media, so people hear about it.
Well, it's very interesting that they didn't care about that story until the Catholic Church opposed going to war in Iraq.
Yes, that's another thing. Blackmail. These things.
Then suddenly all the dirt on the Catholics comes out.
I've done interviews about that. The political intrigue surrounding that. It was held. These things were kind of set up. So when the time came, criticism of the war in Iraq, because the church is compromised because of the scandals, that has less political influence. Yeah,
but he has a lot of influence because that's Italy. That's all of Latin America. All these Catholic nations are going to listen to the Pope say this is not according to Christian just war theory, this isn't anything to participate in.
Well, I mean, the sexualization of the clergy and the sexualization of society in general, the normalization of pornography and these things, that was spearheaded by Jews in the preceding decades. And you can't take the community from which the church, the cultural well from which the church draws from, isn't going to be immune from the poisoned well that is created by these, by these interest groups and Hollywood and pornography itself. You can't take pride in controlling Hollywood or controlling these things. Even legitimizing pornography, Jews brag about their litigation in First Amendment litigation. Then you have to take some responsibility for the consequences, and they don't want responsibility. They just want to take the credit for it. And poisoning the culture.
And there's reason so many Jews in Hollywood and pornography is because of ethnic nepotism, because it was set up by Jewish organized crime with the purpose of generating proceeds that could be used in both legitimate businesses as well as lobbying to get more influence to be more pro-Israeli policy. Like, the Israelis see stuff as like anything they need to do, they'll do, because the Mossad, unlike the CIA or the KGB or FSB, they feel like everything they're doing is in survival mode. Like, we have to do this or we don't exist. They suffer from this neurotic paranoia, like the next Holocaust is always around the corner or whatever. And which is it's odd because their own behavior, if ever such a horrible thing happened again, it would be because of how they behave. But because they're the reason people who are anti-Semitic are anti-Semitic is because of the way the Israeli state behaves and because of why all these criminal organizations behave in order to support the state of Israel.
Yeah, well, they'll say anti-Semitism is sort of a universal human phenomenon. Well, you should pause at that and maybe be perhaps a little introspective.
Yeah, it's like maybe this isn't some irrational prejudice. Maybe it's because of what you do.
The action is in the reaction. The rabbis love it.
Yeah. It's like, look, when you go around as a racist asshole yourself, claiming to be the chosen race of God, and only hiring each other and saying goyim and branding people and constantly being caught in criminal activities and covering it up for one another and eventually some portion of the populace is not going to nuance that. They're just going to look at that and just start hating Jews.
Yeah.
So that's, you're bringing that not only on yourself, but on your entire group for engaging in these behaviors. But Harvey Weinstein hired ex-Mossad agents to harass his victims. And it was from this business called Black Cube.
Yes, that is really... It's like... Wasn't that set up by Ehud Barak or referred to him by Ehud Barak?
It was referred to him by Ehud Barak. It may have also been set up by Barak.
So it's a former Mossad, if there is such a thing. It's almost like... And they're contractors, and they go out and they'll harass, perhaps even do more to accusers or people who are giving Jewish oligarchs trouble or businessmen trouble.
Think about that. Oh, what do you need? I need to harass some rape victims. Oh, I know just the thing.
Yeah.
Are you Jewish? Yeah. Okay. This is all you need. We'll do it for you. I mean, Israeli espionage, former Mossad, there for the purpose of why? Why do you need to help Harvey Weinstein? He rapes a bunch of women. Why would you help him? Because he's Jewish. He's one of the tribe, and he has money and power, and we need him where he is because he's loyal to the Zionist state. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
It's so disgusting. And their racism isn't called out. Us explaining it is going to get us accused of racism or anti-Semitism or whatever, which I'm not at all. I've been
come on. I mean,
this over and over again. But
I know. It's
now and then I gotta explain this is why and be clear.
Well, listen, for decades we watched movies about how the mafia, it's a Sicilian thing or an Italian thing, and this ethnicity matters in an organization.
Some of it was, but
what I'm saying is we're told this. Well, then obviously the ethnic networks and relationships matter in how the organization operates. The same thing with Jews. And
If the Italians had Hollywood, we'd have all these Jewish mafia movies instead.
Yeah.
I mean, because I know exactly what you're saying, but I would not downplay the Italian role. Like, oh, it was all a bunch of Jews, like Mo.
Oh no, it wasn't. But I'm saying, come on.
I'm like, no, there were. Come on, the Italians did have a lot of organized crime, but it's just funny that only their side is told
exactly. There's historical, socioeconomic explanations, ethnic explanation for that type of organization. But the same thing applies to the Jews. Then the same rules should apply.
I don't think you could do a movie on that because people would scream anti-Semite.
Anti-Semitism goes back to that 1908.
But you're just doing history. It's like, but that happened. You
had this vast network in the late 40s, mid-late 40s of Jewish businessmen, gangsters, editors, movie producers, moguls mobilizing to illegally supply arms in violation of an embargo to create the Israeli state, which is a creation of, gangsters and these things. And obviously, the fact that they were all Jewish mattered in how they organized. And
terrorist organizations. Yes. I mean, the Stern Gang.
Yeah.
The Stern Gang wasn't just in Palestine. Like they were murdering people in the United States.
Well, apparently, they threatened Harry Truman.
Them and Ergun and Levi and these cliques that formed the Jewish Agency, which was the sort of government in waiting that becomes the first government of Israel with the first prime minister of Israel. They're all part of terrorist organizations that use terrorism to attack British and Palestinians and even fellow non-Zionist Jews to use violence to get their way.
Yeah, Yitzhak Shamir, Menachem Begin,
Yitzhak Shamir gave the eulogy for Robert Maxwell. He's the guy that fingered and told on Mordecai Vanunu.
Yeah, the guy who exposed Israeli
that's why in the eulogy he said, for deeds we can't even say, like we owe him so much. 6 current or former Mossad chiefs went to Robert Maxwell's funeral. Mm-hmm. That's how important he was. And the prime minister is giving him his eulogy, former prime minister. Holy crap.
Yeah, but then we have a situation where the question of dual loyalty, which I would argue would be an improvement. It's not dual loyalty.
There's no dual.
I know, there's no dual in there, is there?
To the United States.
You always say dual loyalty, jeez. But
I'm like, who's the other state?
I know. But you have this idea of the state of Israel. To them, Israel is everywhere. It's where they are because it's all part of this diaspora. But if they become businessmen by hook or by crook, or politicians, they gain political power, influence. All that is marshaled to undermine the sovereignty of the state that you're living in, for the furtherance of the interest of this foreign state, which is more or less a pirate's cove for Jewish gangsters and oligarchs. But then if you point this out, you're saying, look, this is an anti-Semitic canard, as Abe Foxman might say. But they are organizing, and Arnon Milken brags about being a spy for Israel. He's not put in the prison or any charges. He's still
the largest arms dealer for Israel. Said that on a stage for one of those Hollywood awards or whatever. Totally whitewashed the JFK film as its executive producer, by the way. Never mentioned Israel or the mob. Dismissed the mob, actually, in that film. Arnon Milchan. I talked about him with Michael Collins Piper for a bit about an interview on JFK. And we actually said that before he came out on stage and did that by a few months. Like, we were saying all this, and then he just, admits it. Right? Yeah, I did it, Also did the pilot of, what was the show where they ran a plane into the World Trade Center?
Oh, the Lone Gunman.
Yeah, he was involved in that too. Disgusting, man. They do it right in front of your face, and you can't point it out because it's like anytime a minority or a certain religious group, whatever, does anything bad, the left is just going to defend it, even if it's like, Mexican gangs or something. Oh no, you don't like that because you don't like Mexicans, or you don't like Islam, or you don't like that. Like, no, man, MS-13 is bad. Wahhabi fanatics are bad. Zionists are bad. It has nothing to do with their Sunni Islamness or Jewishness or Mexicanness or whatever.
Well, usually
like,
the gangs you're referring to are proxies for Anglo, Israeli, machinations anyway.
I mean,
Wahhabism.
It's a point where
yeah.
I'm saying Democrats hate children. This is my kind of Jonathan Swift tactic, right? Like, let's eat babies. Because when you look at it, okay, they don't want to have any sort of security checks against child trafficking because, they separate them from their families. Like, what do you think we're doing that for? Just because it's funny or something? Like, they do that as a curb against child trafficking.
Mm-hmm.
They're supporting birthday abortions.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think ever in the abortion debate did even the most pro, choice people would say you can kill a baby 9 months in or on its birthday.
Yeah,
but that's the arguments they were trying to make. Yeah. I mean, birthday abortions. So no check on human trafficking. You can kill a baby the day it's born. If you're gonna do late term abortions, can we do hyper late? Can we abort John Bolton? Because that'd be nice.
Retroactive, yeah.
They're supporting giving hormones to 6-year-olds.
Yeah, the transgender stuff.
To change their sex based on identity. And then they're supporting 10-year-old drag queens doing strip dances and getting money shoved in their pants at gay bars. And you can't point out how degenerate and psychologically fucked up that is. Because what do you hate gays? Do you hate?
Yep.
No. But that's their defense for immigration, which they're just trying to get liberal voters, dependency voters. They won't admit that. And their defense is, you hate South Americans or Central Americans or whatever. It's got nothing to do with that. And the abortion thing, I think most liberals don't agree with the birthday abortions, but there were enough.
In New York, they passed a law.
To try and pass that. Yeah, Virginia shot it down. But yeah, you can kill a baby. Well, what about the psychological health of the mother? Which can mean anything,
Well, having a bad day, yeah. And you're here in Virginia where the governor, that he advocates this on a radio show, and there's this outrage, short-lived. But then then there's more outrage the fact that he wore blackface when he was in college. So that's the priority.
But if you want to get them, you got to play their own game. People do blackface in Japan, but it doesn't have the same history, obviously. Yeah. They also, what I don't think a lot of people know this is, they will put on a big silly putty nose when they're playing a white person, because the stereotype is you have big noses or whatever. But they're not saying, it's not in a derogatory way. It's just I don't know.
Well, I don't know.
20 years ago, where you could pull your eyes tight and be like, I'm Asian or something.
Yeah, it's not. It's faux outrage anyway. I don't think anyone's actually outraged the fact that 35 years ago someone wore blackface, because the sort of absurdity of it all. This obviously white guy posing as Michael Jackson at a party. That's not.
In America, you can just hire a black actor.
Yeah.
Or whatever. In Japan, it's 99.98% Japanese, so they actually have to pretend to be white or black or whatever, because there's no one. They don't have any actors enough, at least, to play these parts. So they put on the nose.
Blackface in the United States started as a Jewish thing. It was Al Jolson. So
I know that. But it all. Anytime there's a crime, you become white. You look at Epstein's little thug car. What do you call it? His profile.
Yeah,
he's a white guy now. You're a rich white male.
Well, they're white when they want to blend in, and when they're not. They're non-white when they want to be separate.
Yeah, you're white when you commit a crime, like all these school shootings.
Yeah,
almost 40% have been Jewish kids. That Elliot Rodgers was, the kid that shot up that high school in Florida was, the Batman shooter was, the guy in Arizona was, half of Columbine was. That's off the top of my head. And they're all a bunch of angry white men. And I'm like, you don't need to mention someone's ethnic group, but if you're going to, don't blame it on someone else.
Because that's just going to make it. Because when people figure out, oh, well, that person's white, he's Jewish, whatever, then you made it worse because you lied about it and blamed it on someone else. And then you're going to cause white racism, by blaming stuff. Like you're creating exactly what you're trying not to create, And if you're going to say, but Jews are white people with a different religion, then I'm like, okay, so the Holocaust was of a bunch of white people.
Yeah.
Pick a, have some consistency in your virtue signaling and stuff. And it's the left that's so obsessed with race and sex and all that, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm a libertarian, so it like pains me to even like have to speak like this because it's so dumb to me. I feel like the person be like, oh, I'm not racist. I have lots of black friends. You're like, you're racist. You know what I mean? Like, no one talks like that. But
if I had any friends, they'd all be black and gay. So
I actually don't have a lot of anything other than Asian friends.
Well, yeah, where you live, yeah,
yeah,
where you live. Yeah, that's going to affect who you meet. Perhaps who you marry, yeah. So
I don't have a choice.
Yeah. So
I have friends back home, I guess, but I probably have as many black and white friends that are the same because there just aren't really many of either one where I live. And
yeah,
in my jiu-jitsu class, I have several friends who are black and athletic, and that's who I'm around most of the time. But I don't see any other American Indians here, and I'll see Caucasians like now and then in the big city, but it's not gonna run up to them and be like, "Hey, you probably speak English too," or something like this. I'm not gonna, you know what I mean? Like, they're just not in my circle. It's so stupid to be like, well, what? You don't gotta go around collecting fucking ethnic groups to be your buddies or whatever. It doesn't matter.
But I mean, it's one thing that Jewish organizations and they've been caught doing is they're very involved. I think you've even written about this, how they're in groups like Israel Aid and Advocates Abroad in the migrant crisis and stirring these things up. You can disrupt nations with mass migration into some traditional society, particularly if it's German or French, where it is ethno-based. And you destroy the French nation or the German nation. Ireland isn't Ireland without Irish people, and you can't dump a couple of million people from North Africa and expect it to be the same country.
I'll push back on France, but definitely Germany and Ireland. Like, France had so many colonies that are little Frenchmen assimilated, speak French, and could probably move to France and not really disrupt as much. But and that's how it was until Libya, really. Yeah. Now you're getting just whoever, and they're going to act like it's the race thing, and this is why they put like Tommy Robinson and all these like really racist people as the face of the anti-migrant movement to make it a race thing. But in Germany, most of the migrants for a while were from the Ukraine and other Caucasian places. It still does the same thing. You're undermining the labor pool. People who don't speak German are not part of the culture. So it doesn't matter if the migrants are from Ukraine or Turkey or whatever. It's the same result. And they're against the migrants, not because of what color they are. It's because they're not German.
Yeah.
It says, I mean, the same thing in the United States. Like, you have so many different groups living here together. Whites, blacks, Asians, whatever. Yeah. The main problem is from the South. In Latin America is like every race too. It's not a racial thing. It's because they don't speak English. They're not part of the culture. A lot of them are, and you get in trouble for saying this, but a lot of them are welfare leeches. And like, well, these people come over and work hard. And like, I don't think anyone has a problem with people coming over working hard. I think they got a problem with all the people that ain't doing that.
Yeah, they want to swell the welfare rolls, and at the same time you get cheap labor. So
hey, if you want to come over and work hard, you can do it legally.
Yeah, and you can. Latin America. Getting the history of Latin America, and it's been destabilized, and you've the effects of NAFTA, the dumping of cheap subsidized corn.
That's the other thing. Like, well, why is Ukraine so desperate to come to Germany in the first place? Why are people in Libya running away, or Syria,
Yeah.
or Guatemala, like because of war and predatory loans and like lopsided trade policies like NAFTA. That's why they're impoverished in the first place. And you cannot have a welfare state and open borders at the same time.
And you do have deliberate policies like bringing in, how did 30,000 Somalis end up in Minnesota? They walk there. Come on.
Yeah, I guess so.
It's like, come on.
That's what United Israel Appeal and stuff does. They moved Jewish diaspora to Israel, and most of North Africa into England or whatever. And like, it's funny the British complaining about it too, because like, oh, you colonized almost half the planet, and now you're kind of getting colonized based on your own policies. Wah. But it is sad.
But if the people in charge,
because
Britain
you're
are
losing
Jewish.
your culture, you're wrecking the economy, and they just can't fight against it because somebody's gonna scream racism.
Well, because certain groups want a diverse, if you will, group where there's no ethnic identity. So if you don't have any ethnic identity, it's hard for you to organize and coalesce and be a political force to be reckoned with.
It also, and this is my hypothesis too, they want to destroy your history, for one, and heritage, and any kind of positive identity, so they can replace it with their own, because their own is be a consumer.
Yeah, tear down a statue.
You see this, a really good example is if you watch the progression of African Americans in the United States, it obviously, legacy of slavery is a ball and chain that cannot be healed quickly like in one generation.
Mm-hmm.
But blacks in the 60s and 70s were doing better than in the 80s and the 90s. Mm-hmm. There weren't drive-by shootings or any of that. A lot of this gets going because of the war on drugs and other things. But you could see that Subner Redstone's filth on MTV replaces black identity with this degenerate thug culture, subculture.
Bling,
bling, and stuff. Yeah. And so it's like, being black suddenly means not speaking correctly and not using proper grammar and just not giving a damn and just having 40s and weed and just being a degenerate piece of shit. And I'm not saying like rap music is bad. It's the videos and all that accompanied it with the music to sell you this brand on what being black is supposed to be. And even racists got caught up on this. Like, a white person acting that way was called a wigger.
Yeah.
Because they started saying, well, this is white behavior, this is black behavior. It's not black behavior. It's just totally made up MTV Subner Redstone crap from Jewish filth, basically, that push that on blacks, because if you don't have an identity, your identity becomes consumerism. Buy the starter jacket, get the Air Jordans, get this, because that's what qualifies you. That's what gets you status in your community, is emulating these rappers and so on. So buy the gold and get the lowrider car and da-da-da-da-da. They want you to be a consumer.
Mm-hmm.
And there has been an assault on... They divide everybody up in the ethnic categories, and then they start atomizing that further. White identity especially... basically any white identity is just racism. That's what they're going to accuse you of.
Yep.
Southern identity is racist now, and they want to get rid of St. Patrick's Day and anything that could be a cohesive glue with positive values that have a nuclear family and things that have been traditional for so long. They want to get rid of that and turn you into a consumer. No, what you need is this. Buy my stuff. And even romance, whatever, like, pick something. Oh, you love this girl? Buy this shiny rock to prove it.
Yes.
Give my company thousands of dollars for this diamond.
That's what
we probably had 20 Africans die in a mine per week to get to us, that we sold illegally through Mark Rich's commodity companies from South Africa through Glencore down to Fifth Avenue. Buy our stuff if you really love her. And they start associating stuff like, oh, are you masculine? I don't think so. Not unless you drink enough Seagram's liquor, to prove you're a man. Which has nothing to do with manliness, drinking. But they're like, how many beers can you consume? Because that means you had to buy more beer, right?
Mhm.
Like you're a sucker, is all it is.
I like when they show like they've commercials where people having these parties with beautiful girls in bikinis. Everyone's drinking some beer, and everyone's just having a rip roaring time. Then they say, "Remember, drink responsibly."
But yeah. It's something that the Irish and a lot of European groups, alcohol companies have created an identity for, like, oh, you're Irish, so you're supposed to drink a lot or whatever. They made it a cultural identity. Oh, Germans love beer and the French love wine or whatever, and they do, but it's become like sort of not German if you don't want to have a lot of beer or whatever, or not Irish. It's become blasphemous because these sellers want to make it part of your ethnic identity to consume their product. So get your Guinness and get your now. That doesn't mean you can't like something because you actually like it, but or you buy something for function is. I'm not going against. I'm not saying be Spartan and don't consume anything. I'm saying there's a huge difference between buying a product that you enjoy, like, I just got some storybooks for my kids because we like reading them or whatever. It's got nothing to do. But there's a lot of people that are buying stuff out of a psychological need where they feel inadequate unless they have these certain things. Kind of the Fight Club mentality where
they've been deprived of community, and so there's a vacuum there. It's filled with consumer goods. Sports teams, right? And that's a big thing in the United States is you identify with a particular sports outfit, whether it's the Patriots or the Steelers, and you wear all their jackets.
And I feel like it's okay. Like, okay, you're a fan of this sport and you like this team, all right. But you got to ask, is that why you're wearing it or not? I know people, I won't say any names or whatever, but came to Japan. There's a Bape store here at some clothing line. It's just like a monkey's face on like a $70 t-shirt or whatever, or more. And they spent thousands of dollars getting all this Bape gear. And so this is a fictional character. This isn't even like, I like Mickey Mantle, so I'm going to wear a Mickey Mantle shirt. That at least he did something. And like, I wear a Bruce Lee because I like Bruce Lee or something. Like, that's a real person, at least something. And it's kind of a signal that other people are like, oh, I like Bruce Lee too. And it's an icebreaker. But this is just like a monkey, like bathing ape. That's all it is. But the thing is, it's like status because of status. It's expensive because it's expensive. Because it's a way of saying to everybody, I'm so shallow. I just spent $200 on a T-shirt, but I'm walking around in a $200 T-shirt. It's a way of like flexing my wealth. It'd be like, I'm so wealthy, I can walk around and drop money on bullshit like this. So other people can go, oh man, that guy's dressed head to toe in Bape gear. He must have money. And the whole purpose of spending the money is to show that you have money to spend. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of and these people did have money, so they can do whatever they want. But there are a lot of people that don't have money that will do whatever to get that one Bape shirt to pretend like they have money, And they're buying stuff because of status. They're buying stuff because of that pat on the back they need socially that used to come from your own attributes, like being intelligent, being nice, being athletic, being handsome, being something that's from yourself. But instead it's purchasable status now. So you can get it through a car or a shirt or whatever. And that kind of consumerism works best when you wreck someone's identity and when you wreck the social glue and replace it with consumer social glue. Mm-hmm. We have this consumer good. We all have this thing or whatever. And I think that's part of the motivation is to break it down. But the other thing is control. If one group has social cohesion and others don't, and they're all atomized and can't organize, guess who wins?
Yes. And at the same time, distracting everyone from noticing the organization and the cohesion.
Yes. You're not allowed to notice things.
Yeah. And so it's almost like if there's one group that's able to lie and another group that doesn't understand lying, well, what's going to happen?
Yes.
The foundation of Judaism is built on deception. Jacob lies to his blind father, steals his brother's birthright, lies to his employer, lies to his wife, bangs her sister and a concubine, just continually lying to everybody. But it's not considered bad. It's considered clever because those lies promote himself. Now, you're not allowed to bear false witness to other Jews. But lying is Christianity is based on truthfulness. I'm not saying the religion's true or not, but they hold truth as a virtue. You're supposed to be honest. Well, if one side's allowed to lie and the other side isn't, and one side's naive to deception and the other one like revels in it, and practices back and forth deceiving each other and stuff, guess who's going to get lied to?
Yeah, this was the root of the Jewish question in Christendom for so many
this
centuries.
Is why Judeo-Christian, like when people say Judeo-Christian, I'm like, whoa, pump the brakes. They're at total odds with each other.
Yes,
like
theologically,
one's promoting honesty, and the other's promoting deception.
Yeah.
One is open to anybody that believes in as Christ as their Savior, sacrificing his life to forgive their sins or whatever, and the other is a bloodline. So one's exclusive, one's inclusive.
And there's also the one is the tradition of martyrdom in Christianity, whereas in Judaism, you're justified in doing false conversions.
Well, you're justified in going to war and raping the captives and selling the women. I'm like, it's disgusting. Like it's now you can reinterpret it to the part of non-recognition, which is what a lot of Jews do, is they just ignore all the like animal sacrifice and really, really silly things. And Christians do the same thing. I don't see a lot of them running around advocating for the divine right of kings anymore or anything. But so religion is as religion does. But if you really look at the text, those religions have never been the same. They share a creation story, I guess. But the philosophy behind them, not the cosmological claims like how did we get here and stuff, but as far as like what we're supposed to do, are definitely at odds.
Well, the difference was in the past there was a general recognition of these differences, and this changed in the 20th century, where I think the most important, the watershed event was probably the Second World War and the Holocaust narrative that grew out of the Second World War. So you have this notion of perennial Jewish victimization. And in the 20th century and since then, that's the key to being morally superior, being the victim, the supposed downtrodden. And that's been exploited and weaponized.
The reason that Jews were banned from England was because a group of them got caught in ritual human sacrifice of a child. His name is William. They're bloodletting this kid. Like, that's the kind of the catalyst that was like, get them out of here.
This is the blood libel, and which has...
they sacrificed a Christian child.
Yeah, and then the usual practice of usury in these things, where they'd exploit. They could engage in all types of unethical business. This is the same thing. Mm-hmm. They'd be like pawnbrokers of stolen goods, or they'd be the marketers of cheaper.
The money changers that Jesus took a whip to.
Yeah, took a whip to, and it's funny because in England,
the OG table flipper.
You go into England, and some of the strongest built homes are the homes of Jewish moneylenders, because every generation there'd be a riot, and the homes had to be reinforced against rioters because they would want to storm it and burn all the records. But it's a periodic thing. It's almost like, I guess you could say, sort of a de facto cleaning of the books, or a jubilee, I guess you could say.
It's because of this cult that there's always a version of, just like in Islam, there's always been a Wahhabi wing, right? Mm-hmm. There's always been a complete and utter fundamentalist that just, we want a caliphate and very anti-pleasure, anti-human, cover your face, cover your head to toe, mm-hmm. listen to us, very sexist. That isn't Islam in general, but it's always been some of that.
Yeah.
And within Judaism, there's always been this cult of just the nastiest things you can imagine. And unfortunately, they will all get collectively judged by that. And Muslims, too, get judged mm-hmm. by the way ISIS or Al-Qaeda acts.
And then that's ignoring all the political pressures on that cause all the above. Like, well, if you hadn't invaded Iraq and there wouldn't be so many recruits for ISIS. But
Yeah.
they can point, and they do this. They'll point to very legitimate crimes like the colonization of Palestine or the sanctions placed on Iraq that have happened to Muslims as a way of recruiting for their clique. Of course, they just want to kill non-Muslims. And Zionists can point to real things that have happened to Jews to say, this is why you got to bond together and support us. But, of course, their behavior is just going to make it worse, right? And ISIS's behavior is just going to make it worse for Muslims. So they don't see that or care about the long-term effects of their ideology. It really boils down to just hedonism under different labels where it's all for their own personal profits.
Yeah, and also the fact that the Jewish leaders, whether it's financial, business, political, cultural, always seem to be pushing policies that are destructive to the general population, the non-Jewish population. You know, their involvement in promoting vices, whether it's gambling, the sex industry, Hollywood pornography. And again, you can't have such a prominent role in promoting that thing.
Oh, before somebody says Christians did plenty of killing too, like, I know this. The Pope read a proclamation. Blah, blah. God, I'm starting to mispronounce L's and TH and stuff because of Japanese. Like, my brain doesn't want English. But he read out and divided the entire New World between Portugal and Spain. And yeah, Christians committed genocide even, but they didn't lie about it. Like, yeah, we did it. So at least they didn't lie about it.
Yeah, and obviously, unfortunately, Christians have been very good at killing each other. But that's
usually how it goes, isn't it? It's the narcissism of small differences.
Yeah,
Muslims kill Muslims, blacks kill blacks, Christians
look at the
kill
First
Christians.
World War, but then you could also say the First World War was prolonged and fermented by higher interests that largely can be traced back to the very people.
Why did America get into the First World War again?
I think it was Louis Brandeis.
Isn't it
the Balfour Declaration?
I remember even my father saying, we spent so much time on the Civil War and World War II, and World War I was like, it was an assassination and something, and next,
the Lusitania? What?
Yeah, but why? I mean,
British
he was
ship?
bragging about, don't worry, I'll get the Americans in this war.
Yep.
And then bragged about it later.
Mm-hmm.
We did it. It's like O.J. Simpson, If I Did It. And then I took that book cover and put Dick Cheney on it with the towers in the background.
Well, it's another example of, I think it was Charles Lindbergh in 1941, September 11th, 1941, in a speech in Des Moines, Iowa, where he says that the chief interest dragging the country into this war are the British, the Franklin Delano Roosevelt, the FDR, Roosevelt administration, and the Jews. And then he's criticized being anti-Semitic for pointing that out. Then after the war, Jews take the credit for getting the country into the war to save the world from Hitler. So what you're saying is Charles Lindbergh
the Zionists
was correct.
sponsored the buildup of the Nazi Party too.
Yeah,
and because they wanted Jewish diaspora to be forced to move to Palestine, so they have Rothschild written on their money. The main street in Israel is not Main Street; it's Rothschild Road or whatever. Like, it's that important to them. Oh, the Rothschilds again with Epstein, the same family. Helping them introduce people. Alan Dershowitz in bed with both of them, and he defended Roman Polanski. He defended Lefkowitz that raped a 13-year-old kid, and he defended Jonathan Pollard, another spy for Israel. Not even Mossad. He was just a spy for Israel. One of the most damaging ones ever. And they let him out.
And I believe I.G. Farben was controlled by the Warburg family.
Yes, that's another one of these prominent families. My girlfriend's roommate in college was a Warburg.
And what you point out is these big Jews
she had enough money to just be wherever she wanted to be.
These big Jews are perfectly willing to kill little Jews. Right? I mean, you're talking about that boat that they sank in Israel.
The SS Patria.
Yeah. Not to mention all the
1,500 people were on that boat, and 55 British sailors were killed in that incident too. They didn't care, and these were Jews that had fled the Holocaust that were going to Mauritius, and they didn't want them to leave Palestine. So they bombed the boat. I have a film about. My film opens with that. It's not about just the boat bombing. It just goes over a whole bunch of terrorist acts, and we covered the sort of nautical ones. And like we couldn't even. We had to do a series. So I'm like, okay, we can do the hotels and the trains and the boats and all these acts of terrorism and the embassies and so on. But just all the different times where they were throwing grenades into Palestinian through windows and stuff like all the times they were just murdering random Palestinians. It was overwhelming. Like I couldn't fit it all in one film. So but it's called The Jewish State, How Terrorists Formed a Nation. And it opens, the trailer was with the SS Patriot incident, which is worse than the Liberty. I mean, 55 British sailors and, well, majority of victims were Jews, obviously, killed by other Jews. And they attempted blowing up several other boats. And it was Palestinian fishermen that went and rescued those who did survive because the Palestinians went out there and got them and saved these people. What thanks do they get for that, right? And the British were helpless. Like, they were so strapped from World War II, they had like only 1 or 2 bullets in each gun. It was just all a front. They had no way of controlling anything. And these Israeli terrorist groups were going around and attacking the British, attacking other Jews, and doing whatever they needed to cause chaos and to make sure they had a Jewish demographic majority, even willing to kill those willing to leave so that others would not attempt to leave. And then later, we accidentally blew up that boat. We were just, well, what do you think you were going to do with the bomb? Just make it sit still? And then they just get on another boat. You know what I mean? Like, they didn't want them going anywhere, and they killed them because they did it many times after that. And it's just, what it means necessary. I'm like, well, why do you have to have a Jewish demographic in Palestine? Like, we did win World War II. You don't have to go anywhere. Nah, they want that land. They've been wanting that land because that's their temple and all that. And they also need a base of operations. And a government is the perfect way. You know, now we have a place. You get caught doing whatever you're doing anywhere, and you just flee to Israel, and it's a safety zone.
Oh, that's what they wanted.
Base.
Yeah, that's what Lansky wanted in Cuba too, right? I mean, that's what sort of a.
It's what the Russian oligarchs got, right?
Yeah, the Russian oligarchs, right?
Yeah, Russian. Zionist Jew Russians that, you know, Borozovsky was involved with Litvinenko, we mentioned earlier. Oh, I guess that was before we started talking.
Well, that was interesting because that was the loans for share deal with the Yeltsin era when Russia was being raped, is that technically Russian property couldn't be owned by foreigners, but you could sell it to these Russian guys who act as for foreign agents. And,
who was the prime minister again?
Yeah.
Jaeger Geider?
Yeah.
Is he Russian?
Yeah.
Yes, he was both, yeah.
And, of course, if you're familiar with like Solzhenitsyn and his book 200 Years Together, which is still not published in English from what I understand, you'll understand the distinction. And, of course, it also puts a certain perspective on the entire 20th century in Russia. What exactly who were the Bolsheviks and, you know, what they did to the Tsar and who filled the ranks.
82%.
Yeah.
82%. Putin gave a speech about it. Like, is this accurate translations? It was. Yeah. And
there's
so
there's no accountability for that,
death,
by the way.
Just sorry, I kind of circle it back.
Yeah, I know. We wandered on.
So we've got this guy. There was I forgot to mention there's screaming coming from his cell, screeching, which you can't do when you're choking, right? Like, if you're hanging, you can't talk because you don't have any air or blood going to your head. But there was screeching and noise coming from his cell. There was no cellmate, no camera. They had a cop and a rent-a-cop who fell asleep through the whole thing, allegedly. And his own lawyers are the ones that took him off suicide watch. I think I mentioned that before, but not the screaming part. But I think that's vital evidence, really.
Yeah.
That's like, what else can a person do if someone's in your cell other than yell, right? And then, of course, once you're being hung, you can't say jack.
Mm-hmm.
And they left him there for a while. His whole face was purple.
Just to make sure there's no chance of reviving him, yeah.
But exactly. And the other inmates were saying, he said, someone's trying to kill me. They're going to kill me. He said that to guards and inmates at the prison. And apparently they're saying it's not even possible. The ceiling's like 8 feet off the ground. Epstein is about 6 feet tall. They're saying he tied a bed sheet to the top bunk, of which no one was in because he didn't have a cellmate, and then just sort of kneeled down to his knees until he hanged himself, right, with half his weight or something. But the inmates are saying, nah, you can't. The sheets they give you are like paper. Like, if you did that and you're 200 pounds,
Right.
It would just rip. Yeah. And there's nothing to really tie it to. There is a metal frame, but you can't move it or anything. Like, there's never been another suicide in MCC. And they definitely like to die. Apparently, it's like Gitmo in there, or was. It's like a pigsty. Epstein was eating off the floor and stuff because he's a child pedophile. They like throw stuff on the ground. But it's like, you can treat him like that after his trial. At least we shouldn't treat people like that. But do it after he survives long enough to flip on everyone.
Yeah, yeah. He apparently.
You wonder why his lawyers get him off suicide watch, because Dershowitz has been implicated.
Mm-hmm.
You know. I hope they serve him papers too. She's like, I'm looking forward to it. He was such a stereotype. He was like rubbing his hands together. He's like, $1/3 billion. Yeah. One of the rapes occurred at Les Wexner's mansion. Epstein was such good pals with him. He went to all his birthdays, recently, not his first 20 or so, because Wexner's like 81, something like that. Epstein was 66. But on Wexner's birthday, he would go there and bring him a new lady, right? And one time, one of the victims was the new lady for the birthday party, and she was raped in his mansion. Not by Wexner, by Epstein. But he felt like it was just sort of his thing to like rape a girl in Wexner's house. The guy had a God complex because he got away with everything he ever did. He's like, I'm untouchable because I'm Mossad. I'm tied to the state. Maxwell's Mossad. Her whole family was in that. But she's Delansky, She's got blackmail on the blackmailer. But apparently she engaged in these orgies and whatnot too. And they're trying to find her. And there's also a maid, and then Keller, that other recruiter, and then, or Kellen, excuse me, and then a secretary, whoever that was. Should be interesting, but I'm thinking they're all dead or all going to be at large because they're just tied to too many important people.
Yeah, it's you're bringing basically if you're a witness to this, or you're taking down the power structure, the New World Order, if you will.
Wexner, if you were to really bust this open, and Mega went down, that's it for Israel.
The Zog collapses.
If they lost the Bronfmans and Wexner and Steinhardt and Spielberg, if they lost, you're talking about 7 or 8 billionaire Zionist Jews. They'd still have like Adelson and some others, but Soros. But nah, I think that would do them in. This could fix it all. If Epstein had lived and flipped on everybody, they lost their blackmail, and all these compromised people got outed, and all this financing from this clique of Zionist billionaires was outed, that would change the world. He absolutely had to die.
This is how the country is run. The world is run by these people.
Yeah.
And this exposes it. And
it could have just cascaded through purge on everything. Get the grip, get the snake out of your ear, That's what we're looking at. Like, if they can catch Maxwell alive, there better be 24-hour surveillance on her. I mean, she should be in a plastic cage like Magneto for the world to see or something, like, until her trial.
Well, I mean, it goes back to the statement by Alex Acosta when he said, "It's above my pay grade. He belongs to intelligence." Now, what that means is we have a high-ranking law enforcement officer of the United States government saying that a criminal investigation is above his pay grade and belongs to intelligence. Now, you bring that question up to what we call a normie, someone who thinks the world functions as the civics textbooks say it does.
Yeah.
Wait a second. Intelligence agencies are engaged in human trafficking? Well, that opens up a whole can of worms. It begs the question. It means that military. I'm saying military, and this is what what your map shows is that Israeli military intelligence, even other intelligence agencies, are often involved in the trafficking of human.
They overlap those things.
Yeah, they overlap. It's a community, as they say. But so what you're saying is these agencies, in furtherance of their operations, will engage in sex trafficking, and among other things, drug trafficking. We've talked about that, and this should tell you what's really going on in the world. But instead of the media just leaves it at that. I mean, this should spark all types of congressional investigations, a new round of like church style committee.
When you have a line drop like that,
yeah,
and the media ignores it, that's further vindication that it's Israeli. Because they wouldn't give it. If it was just the United States, they can report that.
Mm-hmm.
You're not allowed to report Israeli crimes.
Mm-hmm.
You can talk about corruption within the FBI or the CIA too, but not the Mossad. And it's real obvious if he's financed by a group of Zionist billionaires, and he's financing an Israeli prime minister not only through the Wexner Foundation, but also this software company called Reporty. I think the name's called like Carbine or something now.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's tied to Ari Shur and Moshe Katsav and da. The picture becomes real clear, and all his lawyers, all of them, just happen to be of the tribe. It's like those lawyers are provided for you and financed by your buds to help you get a sweetheart deal. And a lot of the lawyers are compromised. Dershowitz, obviously, even though he says he kept his underwear on, he's got to work for peanuts if they want him to. Because if I go down, you go down.
Yeah.
And Dershowitz is like, yeah, unless you die.
Yeah.
Yep. But gosh. Can you imagine Alan Dershowitz in prison? How beautiful that would be.
But when you get this alpha, like the Maker Group, and what you're seeing, these billionaires who control things like, clothing.
Well, the Bronfmans run, what is it, GE Universal, right?
Yeah. So like movies,
entertainment, media. Yep.
Media, clothing, culture. This is the method of control that creates what we call Zog.
Yep.
And so this is the infrastructure.
Very beautifully.
Yeah.
Congress is Zionist occupied.
Yeah.
We call it the Zionist occupation government.
And it's
but it's really not just government; it's all of it.
Yeah. We say government. Broadly speaking, it's the methods of controlling how we think, and this is largely determines how we can talk, what language, what words we can use, how we can express ourselves. But we can't articulate.
The line in Superman was one letter off.
Yeah.
Kneel before Zod. Kneel before Zog.
But this is how Zog is created: bribery, sexual blackmail, control of key industries, entertainment,
and a PC culture that's just afraid to look at anything that's not criticizing straight white males.
Yeah, and I think the dam broke after it took several decades, but I think it was after 1950 and into the 70s and 80s that this started to change. Before that, there were competing factions. I think you had the WASP, establishment.
Doing the same terrible stuff.
Yeah.
I think it was television that consolidated it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the widespread use of TVs in the home. I mean, they call them programs for a reason.
Yeah, yeah. And that was yeah, that's right. That's TV, then now the internet.
Which is why they're cracking down on social media. I mean, people listening, I guarantee you, like, what you learned about the truth of the war in Iraq or Syria or any of these conflicts has come from online, because they didn't do anything but lie on TV.
Yeah.
All of them said they were weapons of mass destruction. All of them said too big to fail. All of them said Assad is gassing his own people. That's where we get Rewind, Gulf of Tonkin, and the rest of it. It was television. But
yeah, that was
internet, antiwar.com, ANC reports, or in these interesting times, we've been telling you, no, that's not what happened. Here's what happened. And we can back it up, but they want to shut that voice down. And one of our biggest means of distribution was YouTube. And that's gone. It's gone.
It's been
never
destroyed,
coming back. Yeah.
And it shows that they don't really care about money at the end of the day, because they reportedly lost billions in capitalization when they destroyed their algorithms, got screwed up, because the way they raised money was through popularity of videos that were, people hit on it, and they destroyed that business model, because if YouTube was were concerned about making money, it wouldn't do this. They destroyed all these videos. But here's an interesting thing. In the 60s, when everyone was watching TV, you had this the Gulf of Tonkin, an attack that didn't happen, which led to a war, and you had the sinking of the U.S. The attempted attack or sinking of the USS Liberty, and the attempted sinking of that ship. That attack did occur, and U.S. didn't go to war.
That was a video I made called "The Tale of Two Ships."
Yeah,
and that's been zogged. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm gonna start saying. Yeah. It got zogged. It got zogged because I was saying, "Yep, here's a boat that was not attacked, and 2 million Vietnamese people are dead. Mm-hmm. Here's a boat that was attacked, and our president said, I want the damn thing on the bottom of the ocean, and the only thing we did was give Israel more money." Mm-hmm. I mean, it's so disgusting. Vietnam did nothing to the United States. Israel attacked our ship, tried to blame it on Egypt, backpedaled and said it was an accident. It was a huge American flag. The signal intelligence proves the Israeli, but it's an American ship. It doesn't matter. They can do anything. I swear Netanyahu could get on stage and eat a baby, and our media would make excuses for it. I'm getting ready to go to Ireland, first time ever to Europe, by the way, and I was digging through my old forum posts about Ireland, and I saw this comparison to Gaza, and I had written. It was one of these Cast-Led or Pillar of God, one of their stupid missions. And I said, imagine if Britain acted like Israel. As bad as Britain has already treated the Irish, imagine if they went full Israel. And so when the IRA does a bombing, Britain just starts firing missiles into Irish cities. Like just blowing up whoever.
White phosphorus. Weapons,
and saying, well, the Irish are human shields, and the IRA was hiding in this house, or just whatever garbage they want to just flatten universities, agricultural centers, residential homes, just killing people, and British snipers went around and shot Irish kids in the balls, and just all the same stuff that Israel does. Go through setting houses on fire and burning a baby, and get celebrated. They have a wedding where they're dancing and stabbing the baby's brother in the face with exactly what Israel's done, right? Like, the world would not stand for that for a second. And if the Irish fought back, they wouldn't be called terror. They'd be like, well, you shot missiles into their cities. Like, the IRA is kind of like Hamas, whatever. They're to blame. They shouldn't have bombed this or that. But you don't collectively punish the whole population. It's just start blowing up houses. And why is the IRA doing that to you in the first place? Because of your occupation, They always start the story in the middle, right? And yet, I am going to guarantee that if America had invaded Gaza instead of Israel, there would be more criticism and truth-telling about our own invasion of Gaza than Israel's invasion of Gaza. Mm-hmm. Because they didn't just like not say what Israel done. They blamed the victims. I mean, there was an Israeli prime minister who said, "We can never forgive them for forcing us to kill their children." That is the most disgusting,
Yeah.
and they believe this. I think it was Mir Goldman that she said, "We can never forgive the Arabs for forcing us to kill their children. Like it's your fault we killed your kids." That, I mean, there's really no solution for people like that. We have got to stop giving them money. We have to end all aid to Israel. We've got to register AIPAC under FORA, and no one's really talking about any of this. The closest candidate right now, even though she was anti-BDS, she did sign on to Ilhan Omar's bill to allow boycotting of whoever, and that's Tulsi Gabbard.
Mm-hmm.
She wants to get out of Syria and Afghanistan for real, and I'm pretty sure she's about as red-pilled as you're going to get on Israel and Palestine, realistically, who is electable.
Yeah, on a national level at least, yeah.
Right. She's got good optics because she's a brown woman, so the shit libs will vote for her. And she has some pretty good policies on foreign policy and even fiscal policy, even immigration. She's not for amnesty or endless welfare for the entire planet. Which sounds like common sense, but it's like, wow, a Democrat that doesn't want to,
Yes.
well, you know.
You hear them
So
making all these promises on their debates is running the bill up, yeah.
She's the only one that can really cross party lines. Maybe Andrew Yang could too. Like Andrew Yang was actually supporting a lot of deregulation in the healthcare industry and admitting, like, yeah, some of the reasons costs are so high is because of all these regulatory practices. And so he was a little bit libertarian on that. But then he's like, $1,000. That's what he's selling people on. It's like, $1,000 a month, $1,000. You're saying, me, $1,000. I'm waiting for Bernie Sanders to be like, 1,001.
Yeah, bid it up a little bit. Yeah, spit it up. Yeah.
He wanted like 90% tax rate, basically communism. Like, that guy's a nut. And he has huge supporters that think he's anti-war and all these things. Just like Obama. Like, oh, Obama's anti-war because his name's not Bush. I'm like, have you seen his record? Have you seen Bernie Sanders' record? He supported sanctions on Iraq and Libya, supported the invasion of Libya, the coup in Ukraine.
You want to support it? Basically, you're supporting a Trotskyite.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
that's what he is.
But like Andrew Yang's kind of like he's definitely like a non-politician, honestly trying to fix problems. But you know, some of his solutions are. Well, at least he's sincerely trying to do what he thinks will fix it.
When you have these excesses of call it capitalism for lack of a better term, or crony capitalism, these bailouts, you always get these cranky ideas, for the common man.
It's cronyism. It's always the state.
Yeah.
Like,
and so why not something for the little guy? As if the system's ever going to allow anything like that anyway, given the way it is. A little bit of more welfare. Well,
a good argument for, like, I'd prefer a free market system, but realistically, in America, they're just not going to let that happen.
No.
So something like what Japan has for healthcare it has a bit of moral hazard because it's like you have to have skin in the game. Otherwise, there's no reason to shop around, right? And you're going to have frivolous visits to the hospital. If you don't have to pay for it at all, prices are going to go up. But if you put just enough skin in the game, because Japan has this 30-70 system. 70% is your universal health care, 30% is from you, not your employer or anyone, it's from you. So that is enough to get rid of frivolous visits and enough for you, other than emergencies, because you don't have a choice in this emergency, but all other cases where you can decide, you're still going to want to know what it costs and try and get the lower price.
Oh, have health insurance.
If you're doing that, though, you can't have regional oligopolies for insurance.
Yeah.
You can't say where you're only allowed to visit these places.
Yeah.
Because that totally negates the purpose of it. Like, if you don't have market competition, it's kind of like martial arts that don't spar. You just end up with a lot of bullshit. Like, but they were saying, obviously, if you just pay 100%, and then who's going to pay for that, right? But if employers didn't have to pay for all their employees' health care, they'd hire more people.
Yeah.
And they'd have more money. And if their own health care was taken care of, they'd have more money. You'd have a lot more businesses opening up, I can tell you that, and more competition. So it would be good if we didn't have this huge burden of health care. The problem is the free health care isn't really free because the costs are so high. And a way to get the costs down is going to require deregulation and market competition and, allowing generics for drugs and cross state lines for insurance and all these other little 1,000 cut fixes that you need.
Or even different definitions of what comprises medicine. I mean, a good example.
Yeah,
is,
what's allowable as medicine, even.
Yeah, homeopathic or even nutritional. You can't even. I mean, that's a big part. If people just altered, Americans eat so poorly.
Oh my gosh! Let's talk about this on another show, but let's talk about it anyway because I enjoy this. I remember in the '80s going through my yearbook or whatever. Someone asked. I have a twin brother, so people were like, "How much did you look alike this year?" And kind of until we still look alike, but like we were mirror image pretty much when we were like 5, 6, 7, 8, like that. So we had a bunch of yearbooks that we were going through, and my class, my grade was only like 2 classes in a grade. This is kind of small sample, but on our island, we had like the fat kid.
Yes.
I'm not going to say his name because it's mean, but it was just there were no fat people all through school, all through high school. We didn't have one fat person in our high school.
Mm-hmm.
And we only had like 500 people or something, but still one fat person.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not even obese or anything, just fat. That's just the average, And I remember even it wasn't really till around like 2000 or so everybody ballooned out of the blue, and a lot of it was because of certain things that happened through the FDA. And it's not everyone will say, "Oh, it's high fructose corn syrup." No. Man, we had Coca-Cola and all that in the 80s and 70s. And people did. It's not that. Keep looking. Something else happened. And now you've got obese children. And it's just the saddest thing. And again, this PC culture, you're not allowed to say, hey, you need to change your diet or you need to exercise more or you just need to eat less, period, or smaller portion of it. No, that's fat shaming.
Yeah, they normalize the dysfunction. Yep.
Yeah, we're not being too fat isn't healthy. Especially as a kid.
Well, they put when I was a kid, we didn't have soft drink machines in high school.
Yeah,
you couldn't get soft drinks in high school, and
you could have milk in the little cartons.
Yeah. Now they aggressively market the stuff, and I think you could say that the processed.
But
foods,
most schools that have drink machines, they're just perpetually out of order and out of drinks. So they sold them all once and they don't come back and refill it, and it doesn't. I don't think it's Coca-Cola or whatever. Like we have that in Japan. Right. There are drink machines in the schools with Coke and Pepsi products and stuff. Well, mostly just Coke. At high schools, we've got McDonald's and all that. And so, like, obviously, high fructose corn syrup is not good for you.
No.
Don't get me wrong.
You don't metabolize it,
There's sugar in everything.
Yeah.
Now. And...
it's the sugar trust, right? Remember, go back to the Spanish-American War. It's a sugar trust.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
So, Epstein, where's the best place to go to catch you developed sort of a schematic or mapping this out?
Yeah, I did several map videos. One of them's on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Then I got suspended. And then I did a financial map, a sort of like person's map. And I'm going to do a Maxwell map on Robert, actually, here soon. I did one for Patreon. I'm going to make it public soon. But it's on ancreport.com. And I will forward you links to the map videos that you can throw in the description.
Okay, good. Okay.
It'll probably be a straight to BitChute thing, and I know this will too. So,
and through this map, you see sort of a schematic of Zog, the Zionist occupation government.
Yes, and I purposely tried not to just like walk through the map, and we talked about other cultural angles because you can already go see the map video, right? Mm-hmm. So, I wanted to tackle some other stuff, and I'm glad you tied that into Hoover and Lansky and sort of a historical thing with the Bronfmans and stuff, because history's how you understand, really get a grip on everything, and you realize this isn't new. And we could have done Deborah Green Palfrey and some of these other cases as well. Like, she was suicided.
She hung herself too, right? Yeah.
At her mom's house, right? Allegedly. I talked to a former cop from that county. It was a very small group of police. Anyway, that's we're gonna have to see what happens with Ghislaine Maxwell, and if they can find her, if they haven't already, because it may have happened during this 3 hours. Who knows?
Yeah, I know.
I'm hoping, like, please get her alive, and then she needs to be under surveillance 24 hours a day. Bring in the Russians or somebody. Like, I would trust them more. I can't see her being held anywhere without getting offed.
Yeah.
Like, gosh, she's got dirt on the royal family, on the Clintons, on so many big tech movers and shakers, which I would just love, because I'm at war with these people anyway.
Yeah.
That's why they all hate us. They're run by Zionists, they're blackmailed by Zionists, and they're going after anti-Zionists. It didn't start that way on YouTube. It was a Wild West. You put up
it was bought out. I mean, if you're Google and you have bottomless pockets of deep state money, of black op money, you can just go in and write a $35 million check, or billion rather, and give them an offer they can't refuse. They didn't. That's what happened with YouTube. It was bought out. And eventually they'll buy out every platform that becomes meaningful, because they have access to the New York Fed and the Washington Fed. They'll create what's that company that bailed out Bear Stearns?
Well, it was J.P. Morgan Chase did 1.2 billion of it, but Maiden Lane LLC did the rest. But they just got the money from the Fed.
Yeah, the New York Fed will write a check to buy out the other platform. That's how the system operates.
Ron Paul's right. You gotta kill the Fed in these wars. Like, that's otherwise. It's a bottomless pit of they just perpetuate everything, because they've got the money. They can go and get it from the Fed and continue their criminal operations and continue to control the media, control the narrative. The narrative maintenance is zogged.
Yes.
And you really can't fix it, really. Even with a huge criminal trial and stuff, they'll be replaced by the next ones until you get rid of the Fed.
Yeah, and there's no account. Not like the Senate Finance Committee, the House Banking Committee can bring in the Federal Reserve Chairman and demand answers, because we knew Bernanke told the Congress back in 2008, says, sorry, I'm not going to tell you what I did with the 22 trillion.
Well, what was it? The guy in the Ethics Committee, Chris, whatever. He got caught in sexual escapades too.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well,
yeah. And it's like, yep. See, you go against it at all, whether you're a Vitter or a Spitzer or something that are blowing the whistle, then all your dirt comes out.
Yeah, you realize the reason why beautiful girls were coming on to you wasn't because you're handsome or you're charming or you got power. It's because now you're useful. So if you're some guy who gets appointed to a position, gets elected, and just after that you start noticing beautiful women coming on to you, you might be a little suspicious about that.
I mean, I've had honey traps come my way. It's so obvious, I'm married, so
it's too good to be true.
Taking that bait, but it's like
whoa.
It's like some girl meeting certain physical specifications, and she also likes Spider-Man and a lot of other very specific things. I'm like, sure you do.
Oh, that's
Who
was that guy who created the plastic gun or something? Got caught up in a trap, underage trap. Corey, what's his name?
Oh, was that the 3D printed gun? Or
yeah. You got caught underage girl.
Yeah, I don't remember.
But
they can jailbait people. Like,
that's
you
what
get
it is.
A little bit drunk or on MDMA or something, and then you get some 17-year-old that looks 25 and in the right circumstance.
Well, one thing is you got to control your passions.
You got to have self-control.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'm not going to hold everybody to my own standard. I think, realistically, a lot of people, especially people who have trouble getting a girlfriend at all, maybe you're just ugly or you're awkward or you don't have social skill, and that it's very alluring to you if that's the situation you're in. It's really hard to pass up. As hard as it is for somebody that's really poor, you throw a bunch of money in their face that
Yeah.
you want to sell out, you want to compromise because you need the money. And it's hard to say no. Everyone's got a weak spot for something.
Or you can be set up. They can put software on your computer. Or
Yeah, Kevin Strom.
yeah, they can just put it on there, right? I mean, that's like remote.
His wife put it on there and then pointed to it.
Oh, great!
Like, while he was visiting his kids, and then turned him in. Yeah, why is all that shit on the internet, right? Like, oh, he visited a child pornography site.
Why
like,
is that allowed? Yeah, but
your
videos get pulled.
Now, or what happened, right? Like, why is there even such a thing? Like,
well, because obviously it's there to destroy and corrupt, and that's why, when the community
people should see that video I did on pedophilia in different government agencies, because there are stories there of people raping their own daughters, like, ugh. And it just gets moved along. The only reason a lot of attention was on Epstein is because they thought it went to Trump. And our media is so anti-Trump because he's literally Hitler. Because Trump is not pro-immigration. He basically goes along with them on everything else. And that's the one thing. He's not on board 100%.
Yep.
And 9 out of 10 ain't good enough, Goy. You need to do it all.
It's a matter of principle. So, okay, Ryan.
Right, I'll catch you next year.
Yeah. Let's enjoy the typhoon.
Yeah, it's very windy.
I'll let you go. And
I'm going to talk to you a little bit off air, just for like 1 minute.
Okay, I'll let you go. And when I post this, I'll send you the link.